local government. It's supposed to be Coast Guard, not the local government. But I took the helm of leading the rescue, the response, and coordinating to everyone from the very first day. This is my 14th day acting as the incident commander, which I'm not supposed to do. I am the local government unit, local chief executive. But because there must be someone to take over and take responsibility for all of this, as father of the province, I take the initiative. Good enough, Madam Chair. The President has given the go signal to call any cabinet secretary. The following day, after March 3, Secretary Gatchalian was the first to confirm my request. Una pong dumating sa amin is 20,000 family food packs, which we have already completed distributing the first wave. And this is going to continue for the rest of the 1 month. So dumating na po sa amin na food packs is more than 40,000. As of this moment, as I speak, Madam Chair, we have 102,000 individual Mindoreños who are directly affected by the oil spill, covering 20,465 families. Aside from the food packs that DSWD is distributing, although kulang po at kulang talaga, hindi po siya makukompleto. Kasunod po nito is the Cash for Work program. Initially, the affected family at the initial report as of March 3 is only 10,000. DSWD committed 10,000 worth of Cash for Work program for 15 days and another 15 days. However, the effects were so huge, it doubled. Kaya po yung for one tranche no 15 days, another 15 days, go-consume na lang po siya ng one time. Kaya Mr. Senator, Madam Chair, we decided that the local government will take charge of trafficking the funds from the national government. Otherwise, there will be local governments na sobrang dami at meron local governments na wala. As of this moment po, as I speak, ng oras na ito, the first batch of the Cash for Work program is being distributed, Senator, from DSWD. And in the coming days po, we have a final list. In those lists, manggagaling po, Mr. Senator, Madam Chair, yun pong sisweldohin ng Cash for Work program ng DSWD. After that po is the DOLE.
Okay. Excuse me. Can I interrupt? Okay. Maganda narinig ko may mga food packs na dinistribute. Ano to, one time? Or
Hindi po.
Continuous
on
a daily basis?
Amin na po siyang trinafig. DSWD is for 1 month. Weekly po, merong set.
Weekly.
Weekly po. Tapos,
Ano po yung food packs? Ano pong nilalas na food packs?
dilata,
Okay.
kompleto po siyang set. Supposed to be it's for 4 to 5 days consumption of a family.
Okay.
And then after that po, it's the turn of the provincial government on the
So
5th.
saan galing po yung GOB? Yung
DSWD po yun.
Okay.
Nasa amin na po siya.
Meron po.
Meron po
Bawat residente.
bawat po affected dun sa official list namin.
Meron po bang assistance?
Yun
Hindi po doon
po.
sa tupad? Kasi
Meron po. Ito po yung Cash for Work program under DSWD. Originally po, it's good for 10,000 families. It will now become 20,000.
Sorry. Naintindihan ko po yung Cash for Work program. Yung po tatabahoin nila bago sila
Ganito po.
Katapos po ng
Ang agreement po
Sorry
namin.
po.
Sige po.
Katapos na magtrabaho, saka sila bibigyan ng cash. Maliban na lang kung cash advance and then trabaho. Ganun ba yung nangyari?
Every 5 days po ang agreement namin. Magbibigay po. Today po, nagpapasweldo po sa first batch.
Okay, so every 5 days.
Every 5 days po ang pagbibigay.
So merong food packs plus
Cash for Work program.
Cash for Work program.
Yes po.
Okay, so yan po yung support ng DSWD pati ng...
Ito dole pong
Ilan
susunod.
po affected ng mga residente sa buong Mindoro?
20,465 families. That's equivalent to 102,000 individuals.
102,000 individuals. So, enough po ba yung mga food packs to cover it 102,000 individuals? Okay.
For families po.
Or families.
For families po,
So the government is trying to give assistance, pero it's not good enough. Kulang nga po. Yun po yung ibig sabihin. So, sino dapat magpupuno sa kakulangan na yon?
siguro po, yun po nag-cause ng aksidente. Maliwanag naman po dapat. Very clear naman po, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. Ang local government, nagbigay kami ng listahan. We officially give the list to Coast Guard last week. I turned it over to Commodore Rosario with the Admiral Abu as the witness. That is the official list, Madam Senator. Ito po, kung bibigyan ng tulong, ito po yung official list.
Kaya ang tanong ko sana, Madam Chair, sunod doon sa may-ari ng barko. Meron bang binibigay na assistance yung may-ari ng barko? Financial assistance o cash assistance? Nandito ba yung may-ari ng barko?
Your Honor, I'm here po, CP in behalf of the company.
Okay. Ano pong assistance ang binibigay niyo po sa mga apektadong residente?
Same po, Your Honor, lahat, Madam Chair, lahat po ng assistance when it comes to our response recourse through the Philippine Coast Guard. Madagdag po lang po.
Tanggal yung face mask para mas madali ka maintindihan. Okay.
Ulitin ko lang po, sir. Madam Chair, so yun po lahat po ng our response resources ay recourse through the Philippine Coast Guard. Madagdag ko lang po tungkol dun sa cash for work. Ang ano po yung Harbor Star na in charge sa shoreline cleanup ay magkakaroon din po ng ganong klaseng programa para po sa ating mga kababayan na apekto ng oil spill.
In terms of doon sa food tax na sinasabi po ni Governor, wala ba kayong pang-counter doon? Tulong din, pagkain, masahe ng mga estudyante papuntang eskwelahan? Wala? Oh,
As we
ba't wala po?
Your Honor, Madam Chair, we are a small family corporation. We're focused on oil spill response, pero ngayon po, as we speak, we are preparing our own initiative to help our kababayans via
Sorry, I know you're a small family corporation, pero dapat pinaghahandaan nyo, meron dapat kayong pera nakahanda in case dumating ang isang hindi inaasahan tulad nito. Di ba? Meron dapat kayong pondo, pambuhos para pang ayuda. In this case, may emergency funds, pambigay ng cash assistance sa mga apektadong residente. Tulad sabi kanina, pamasahe para sa mga estudyante, baon ng mga estudyante, cash yun ang kailangan. Di ba? Eh, wala po kayo. Ang balita ko nung una, kayo na po yung nagtatago ata. Ewan ko, correct me if I'm wrong. So, dapat ma'am, makipagtulungan kayo sa mga taga-LGU. Kayo ba, Gov, nakipagtulungan ba sa inyo itong company ng Imbacom?
We met once po, and what we are asking is this, two things. The first one is on response, clean up. There, they are helping us together with Harbor Star and Malayan Toways. Pero as far as to direct assistance to our kababayans, yun po ang wala.
Okay.
And that's what we are asking sana, kasabay ng gobyerno, kasi hindi po kaya ng gobyerno i-sustain. Masyado po mabigat ito, Mr. Senator. Napakabigat po. Ang nire-request na lang po sana namin, baka po pwede, kasi sabi ng representative kahapon, they are procuring. Ang request po sana namin, yung when are they distributing.
Yun. Ma'am, pwede niyo sagutin yan? Ma'am Fritzy?
Your Honor, we sent my sister-in-law to meet with Mayor Cruz. I think it was last week, and we specifically asked what they needed. And during that time, we were collecting po data on what the people, kung ano po yung pinakakailangan muna nila.
Okay, so nung nakausap niyo po si Mayor last week at tinanong mo kung anong kailangan at sinabi sa inyo for sure kung anong kailangan, ano ba yung na-deliver niyo na?
Senator, I think the mayor that time, ang sabi po sa akin is, hindi po nila kailangan or ayaw po nila tumanggap ng tulong mula sa amin.
Sure ka? Sinabi ni Mayor? Na...
Yes. Yun po ang nakarating sa akin from my sister-in-law. Yun po.
Mayor? Tumanggi kayo daw, Mayor?
Senator, sabi ko po sa kanila, ilatag mo yung kailangan na ilalatag niyo for us. Yung tulong na binibigay is mga bigas, mga ganyan. Pero hindi niyo sinasabi sa amin yung clear na plano niyo for Paula dun sa mga damages and all that. Kailangan namin nag-uusap with that dun sa government. Kailangan nandun kayo. Yun yung request ko sa inyo. Ilatag niyo yung lahat ng ibibigay niyo na tulong para sa probinsya, ang lalo na sa bawat ng pera, hindi na po kasi bumalik sa akin. So after that, kapag ko nagbibintay sa kanila for 9 days, speeding nga lang doon ko sa kanila. Maybe silang nag-reply sa amin. Pinapatayin kami nito. Walang response. And now, after 9 days, magsasalita na kami on national TV. Binapin sa amin, sa yung nila, para sabihin na magbibigay ng iba. Sabi sa akin. Sabi ko, hindi ko tatanggipin yan. Kasi, why now? Kasi sobrang tagal namin naghihintay sa inyo. Tagal namin naghihintay. Marami nang nagkasakit. Marami nang naapektuhan. Walang tulong. So, naghihintay kami. So, sinabi ko sa gobernador, Then, nag-usap kami, ilatag ninyo anong kailangan itulong sa amin. And kami rin, maglalatag kami ng gusto namin. So, yun. Kasi kung dahil sana, accepted sana eh. Pero ngayon, sobrang tagal. 14 days na po. Hanggang kailan kami maghihintay. And then, ang laki ng ang isa pa bumunggo sa bayan namin. Wala kami hinintay babon. So, yung timetable, wala din pong binibigay sa amin. Until now. So, naghihintay pa rin po ba kami. Yung lahat ng mamamayan na bayan ng pera. We have 4,800 plus na affected families. Hindi sila pamasay. Ang tinote yung iba. Pero, wala kami. Hindi pang plano for us. Naghihintay ko lang po kami.
Okay.
Hindi ko namin nararamdaman. Gusto namin yung tamang plano for us. Hindi namin yun. Hindi po bumalik sa amin.
Okay. Ma'am Plitzy,
Madam Chair.
I understand, excuse me pa, Madam Chair, I understand na merong $1 billion insurance kayo? Accident insurance, liability insurance.
Indemnity insurance po.
Ito ba yung na-file nyo na sa insurer?
We are in close coordination po with our
So,
insurer.
lalabas yung claims?
We will have problem on that. Maybe the Marina and the Coast Guard will explain that they cannot claim from the insurance because they have no permit to operate.
Oh! Nako po. Yun ang malaking problema.
Kaya we should not wait for that anymore. They will have problem with that.
They don't have permit to operate, Madam Chair.
We asked the Marina and the Coast Guard. They don't have permit to
So,
operate.
Coast Guard, bakit nyo pinayagan na maglayag itong barko na may mga oil?
Not depend on something that will not come.
I didn't know, Madam Chair, na wala silang permit para to operate.
Yeah,
So, ba't
because
pinapayagan yung barko nila maglayag?
ask Marina and Coast Guard to explain that.
Okay, Coast
I
Guard.
want them to explain.
Di ba lahat ng barko bago maglayag, may sumasampa na miyembro ng Coast Guard para inspeksyonin yung mga papeles, ilang taong nandoon at kung anong karga. We didn't do that, right? Kasi if you did that, malalaman nyo na wala silang permit to operate pala. Wala sana nangyari ko spring ngayon.
I think the company has permit to operate, but every time you have a new vessel, you get another permit for that vessel. I think this vessel was not given a permit.
Kaya, Madam Chair, sinasabi ko, di ba lahat ng barko na naglayag, dapat sumasampa yung Coast Guard to inspect. So, kung inspection niyo po yung barko niyo na bagong barko, at nakita niyo pala walang permit to operate, hindi sana pinalarga. In-stop niyo, wala sana oil spill ngayon.
Ask Marina and the Coast Guard to clarify the situation, explain to us. Kasi I don't want the people to rely on that 1 billion insurance. If we cannot get that, then we should plan accordingly that we will not get that and we will take care of our...
I agree, Madam Chair.
Madam
I
Chair.
agree.
Maigling manifestation bago yung Marina at Coast Guard. Doon sa isang importanteng sinabi ni Mayor Cruz. Tama po yung sinasabi ni Mayor Cruz. It has the force of law, yung sinabi nila. Dahil doon sa RA 9483, yung Oil Pollution Compensation Act, liability for pollution damage lies with the ship owner. Kaya maitatanong sana no, sa RDC, in terms of compensation for the environmental destruction, loss of livelihood, and damaged properties of the people, kung ano yung mga plano. And I think ganun din yung sense ng sinasabi ni Mayor Cruz.
Senator
ma'am,
Risa,
before we go to the
that
Coast
company is
Guard
a
and
very
Marina.
small company and I don't think they can tackle this problem. They will go bankrupt.
I understand, Madam Chair.
So,
Kaya naman tayo
They will
nagsiset ng
They will not
liabilities.
do anything. So the government should be prepared to do something because we cannot
Yes.
rely on something that we cannot rely on.
Yes, Madam Chair.
We're dreaming.
I share the chair's objective sa hearing natin to establish liability, whether it's the company or others. Gusto ko lang bigyang diin yung sinabi ni Mayor Cruz na meron talagang solid na batayan sa batas. Yun lang po. Salamat po.
Mabalik ulit ako doon sa Coast Guard, hindi ata nasagot yung katanungan ko, Madam Chair. Kasi, yes, gusto ko lang malaman to ng lahat, correct me if I'm wrong, Philippine Coast Guard, at any given time, any moment na isang barko, the pier, maglalayag, kung anumang klaseng barko yon, di ba dapat sumasampa yung mga member ng Philippine Coast Guard, hinahapan ng papeles, titingnan yung crew, tinitingnan yung laman, kung overloaded ba o hindi, etc. So kung ginawa nyo yun, tulad na sinabi ni Madam Chair, na wala palang permit to operate yung bagong barko yun, napigilan sana maglayag yun, wala sana nangyari ngayon na oil spill.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, along that line, natapos na po in fact yung marine casualty investigation. Ang commander po, may he be allowed
Sir,
to describe-
sagot lang po direct to the point. Meron bang permit to operate? Kung sinabi ni Madam Cynthia Villar, may permit to operate yung barko? Wala. Yes or no lang po?
Mr. Honorable Member, Sir, Senator Tulfo, I'm Vice Admiral Joseph Corme. It is one of my functions to investigate marine casualty in the country.
Sir, pakisagot lang. Yes or no? May permit to operate? Wala.
I'd like to ask first, just to be sure, Mr. Chair, Honorable Senator, Sir, my field operator investigation.
Pasapasahan niyo ako. You should come prepared. Napakasimple na tanong. A simple question. It's a simple answers, direct to the point. May permit ba o wala? Dapat you should have investigated that. Kasama sa investigation, malalaman nyo na walang... Kasi sabi naman ni Senator Cynthia Villar, wala raw permit to operate yung barko. Pangalawa, ba't ikaw sumampa doon sa barko bago maglayag yun, sir?
If I may, sir, you're correct, sir, that all vessels, regrostans and above, they are required mandatorily to secure departure clearance from the nearest Coast Guard unit, sir.
Okay. Secure clearance.
And then our inspectors, sir, are required to fill up those checklists. We call it pre-departure inspection checklist, sir.
Okay. Di ba yung Marina kasama din sa mag-inspect yan? Sa sampa?
Not necessarily, sir.
Not necessarily. Pero kayo sa Coast Guard dapat ang sasampa, di ba?
Yes po, sir.
So, bakit di kayo sumampa?
The marina who will give the permit and the Coast Guard is a counter check. If there is a permit, they will allow the
Kaya nga po, sinasabi ko po.
it's a combination. It's a counter check to Marina. Marina will give the permit and you will check the permit, di ba?
Ang sinasabi ko po, Madam Chair.
Tanungin nyo sa
Alam ko, Madam Chair. I'll get into that. Don't worry, I'll get into that. Don't worry, easy lang. Coast Guard, sagutin mo muna yung tanong ko.
Sa tanggapan ko po, sir, bilang nag-head sa investigation for this, we already recommended to our national headquarters for appropriate administrative legal actions
Yun.
and investigation.
Kasi
sir.
from now on, always make it a point na bawat barko, walang barkong alis. Di ba meron kayong mga personnel sa mga pier? Ito ba? So, dapat yung mga personnel sa pier, bago mag-layag yung barko, inaakyat, sumasampa, tinitingnan mga papeles, kung ano pa mga requirement to make sure na pwede ito na maglayag. Di ba? Kasi if you did that, wala sana oil spill. Di ba? Ngayon, nagtuturuan kayo. Ginawa nyo po sana ang trabaho ninyo, hindi sana tayo nag-usap-usap ngayon. Simple as that, period. Di po ba? So may pagkukulang po kayo doon. So from now on, bawat pier sa buong Pilipinas, mayroon dapat personal ng Coast Guard. Walang barkong lalayag na walang go signal mula sa Philippine Coast Guard. Di po ba? At dapat kayo, Philippine Coast Guard, ang Marina, palaging nag-uusap. Kayo ba'y nag-aaway ng Marina at hindi kayo nag-uusap?
Hindi naman po, sir. In fact, we are closely collaborating to address such concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So ano po yung gagawin nyo ngayon na nakita nyo pala may pagkukulang na kayo? Ano mga steps ang ginagawa nyo ngayon, ilatag nyo ngayon so that this will not happen again? Yung bang hindi nyo pagsampa doon sa mga barko na naglalayag?
Thank you.
Remember, may mga insidente na tayo, mga lumibog na barko dahil overloaded. Walang sumampang taga Philippine Coast Guard. Di ba? Ulit naman to. Ngayon, oil spill. Barko na nalunod, overloaded, maraming namatay. Wala kasing Coast Guard na sumampa. Meron na sumampa, pero siguro, piling na ba ito habang nakasampa? Diba? Kasi kung talagang nakadilat ang mata, binibilang yung pasahero, tinitingnan yung cargo, hindi tumutugma sa allowed na cargo para sa vessel na yun, o kaya nalubog, diba? Kung ginagawa ng Coast Guard trabaho, hindi sana nangyari yun. So, Philippine Coast Guard, mga sir, ano po yung ginagawa niyong measures ngayon na para hindi na po maulit ito?
Thank you very much, sir. Una po muna, nung lumabas yung resulta ng MCI, parang nagpaalala muli yung ating kapamunuan po ng Coast Guard sa kanilang mga unit. Sapagkat meron na pong mga guidelines ito. It's a matter of ensuring na gagawin po nila katulad po ng inyong binanggit. Pangalawa, yung mga tao po na involved na aming na-identify sa investigasyon, kasalukuyan po nasa kustodiya sa loob po ng kanilang unit. Upang nandun sila habang aalamin pa natin at magdidiga pa tayo ng information.
Sir, hindi lang dapat yung mga bababang ranggo, dapat yung matatas ng ranggo doon kasi sa ngalan po ng command responsibility. Bakit hindi kasi na-supervise ng mga matataas ang ranggo? Wala bang mga ano dyan? Mga colonel, mga general sa inyo, or commander?
Kasama po yun, sir. In fact, it is part and parcel of our concept
Okay,
of
thank you.
investigation.
Isa lang po, 1.3 billion meron kayong budget para sa ganitong klaseng mga insidente. So, ito po mga 1.3 billion, nagagamit na? Commander na?
Bongki, kasama po natin yung commander ng MEPCOM. Mas alam po niya ito. Sa Marine Environmental Protection Command, Admiral Patrimonio, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman and Honorable Senator Tulfo, sir. So, based on our General Appropriations Act for calendar year 2023, the Coast Guard was appropriated, as you have said, 1.4 billion 536 million.
Okay.
But the component of this is for personal services is 1.3 609,502,000 pesos, and only for MOE is 38 million pesos, sir. So this is further breakdown into four items.
So, nalito na ako sir. So, may budget ang Coast Guard for this.
Shorten our argument. There is a report of the Marina which says you asked for this report, accident report on the foundering and sinking of Princess Empress. The ship has no authority to operate in the form of an amendment to its certificate of public convenience issued to RDC Relid Marine Services Inc. to operate the MTKR Princess Empress in the domestic trade pursuant to the revised implementing rules and regulation of Republic Act number 9295. Okay? That's please explain this to them so they will understand. Wag na natin pahabain ng usapan. Explain nyo na lang to kasi to nung binasa ko tong report nyo, nakita ko to, ano ba to?
Okay. Kaya nga, Madam Chair, thank you. Yung 1.3 billion, sabi mo naging 1.4, tapos ngayon naging 30 million na lang. Nalilito ako. Tanong ko lang, simple lang. Yung perang yun na nakalaan para sa ganitong klaseng insidente, pag nangyari, yung pa ba'y gumugulong na, nagagamit na?
Ang majority sa country is for sahod ng mga personnel natin. So 1.3 is for the compensation of all our personnel, sir. Sir, is for
Ibig sabihin, itong 1.3 billion ay para lamang sa matauhan ninyo.
yes, sir, compensation ng personnel natin.
Compensation matauhan ninyo.
Yes.
How about the compensation sa mga naapektuhan? Puro kayo na lang pinag-isipan niyo, puro sarili niyo, kami, ako. Dapat sila. Diba? So, ibig sabihin ito, 1.3 billion na budget sa Marine Environmental Protection Program para sa matauhan niyo pala ito.
Sa sahod ng mga tao natin, sir.
Kaya nga,
Yes,
dapat meron kayo inilaan para sa mga affected na mga aksidente. Di ba, sana man lang, kahit siguro food packs, bigay kayo. Kung ganun pala, walang kapuslanan to kasi para sa inyong mga tauhan lang pala ito. Na dati nang may sweldo, sweldo mo pa ulit.
hindi
Siyempre,
po.
kumatawan di ba?
No, this is kabuuan to part 2 ng mga OPS ng Coast Guard, sir. So, yun yung breakdown sa 1.3 billion. So, ang working budget ng talaga ng Coast Guard, sir, MOE, sir, is 38 million, sir.
38 million.
Yes, sir.
Napakali. Siguro, Madam Chair, tulungan siguro natin Coast Guard, nakakaawa naman kung gano'n para magkaroon sila mas karagdagang budget. Last na lamang, Ms. Pritzy, yung sinasabi kanina ni Mayora na hiningan ka ng program, maglatag ka ng programa kung anong klaseng tulong ang pwedeng ibigay. Weeks ago pa rin, hindi na kayo bumalik at pinabagsak ng telepono. Sila, bakit naman po ganon?
Your Honor, dun sa pagpunta po ng sister-in-law ko dun kay Bayora, precisely to ask what the people needed. So ngayon po, nandiyan na si Mayora, nandito na po ako. Siguro after this, pwede po kami mag-usap. Malatag na po kung anong kailangan nila at ano po ang kaya namin po maibigay, Mayora. Thank you po.
Gusto niyo, Mayora?
Kailangan po kasi namin na mag-usap na governor, yung ibang members po, kasi kailangan kompleto din po. Yung ilalatag namin din sa inyo, hindi ko po dala para kausapin ko sila. Pwede din naman po kami mag-usap initial. siguro kung para po lahat kami.
Governor, we recognize the governor.
At the onset of the calamity, we call that very calamitous in our part. We have decided that we will work as one local government. The governor has already the authority of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan to do, initiate, mobilize, and file any action relative to the oil spill. The League of Municipalities has already issued a resolution authorizing the representatives from the LMP to sit. We have already identified also, Madam Chair, the other members of the TWG. I signed already the executive order comprising the TWG for this. Simple lang naman, Madam Pritz. Sabi ko sa inyo dati, compensation is one thing. Compensation to damages is one thing. But as human beings, we must be compassionate enough to give whatever is not asked. Because when we give something that we ask, what we are asked to give, that's nothing. We are only giving what we are asked to give. We cause the problem. It is incumbent upon us as human beings to extend whatever assistance we can on our own volition without anybody prodding us to give it. Ma'am, ang pagkain is basic. We don't have to ask you to give food. We don't have to ask you. Human compensation is another matter. Nalulungkot ako sa narinig ko kanina kay Senator Villar na there is a possibility not being not given the compensation eventually. That hurts me most. Why? Sabi ko sa kahapon nung nagwala ako sa abogado nyo during the hearing of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, I told him straight to his face. Sabi ko sa kanya, simpleng tanong, will you give our province compensation to damages even without the filing of an administrative or criminal case? Ang daming paligoy-ligoy. Sabi ko niya, just tell me yes or no. Yes or no lang, bakit? You can pay the amount of money na nawala sa amin. Pero di mo ako kayang bayaran ng pagod ko. For 14 days, walang tulog, walang kain, pagod na pagod. I've been receiving visitors every day. Ako, naranas ba ninyo pumunta mismo ng oil spill? Gobernador ako, actual ako naglilinis doon. Because I want to give the people the hope that, hey, asa tayo dito, huwag kang mawala ng pag-asa. If your governor can go down that dirt, then everybody can. Ang nire-request lang naman natin simple. Simple assurance that you're going to pay us. Your lawyers kahapon sa insurance assured us they will. The insurance company, PNI, came to Mindoro yesterday, came during the hearing of the Sanggunian, where I was present, and you categorically stated, this week you are going to establish the claims center. Meaning, magsisimula na kayong tumanggap ng claims for damages this week. Ang sinabi ko lang kahapon sa lawyers nyo, simple. We will not encourage individual claims. We will claim as a local government and we will ensure na yung tao namin, our group, our people will have an individual that collectively filed para mas malakas ang aming
Gob, can I interrupt, Gob?
Sige po.
Tama nga kanina sinasabi ni Cynthia Villar, ano sila mababayaran ng claims samantalang wala naman daw permit to operate yung barko. So we should not be talking about insurance claims here. Di ba? Yun nga po eh. So wala tayong makasama na insurance. So tama si Senator Villar kanina, why are we talking about claims? Huwag na natin asahan yun dahil hindi kayo babayaran ng insurance company. You should be honest enough kayo dyan sa ano pangalan po ng barko nyo? Kumpanya?
RDC, sir.
DC. Dapat maging honest kayo from the very start. Sinabi nyo sana na sensya na, may problema. Wala palang permit to operate yung barko namin kaya walang insurance na masisingil kami. Hindi kami pwede magsingil. Kaya tutulong kami kung anong pwede naman may tulong sa abot namin makaya. Hindi nyo pinaasahasan nyo si Gob sa pagdala kayo ng lawyer doon para sabihin na kayo nag-uumpisa ng pagpapahal ng claims sa inyong insurance company na alam nyo naman parang hindi kayo mababayaran. So, nanloloko lang po kayo.
Opo, sinasabi nila makaka-claim daw sila sa insurance company. Ako, galing ako sa business eh. Alam mo, yung insurance company, maghahanap yan ng basis para hindi sila magbayad.
Yes.
I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know if this insurance company is something different, di ba? I don't I don't kaya lang ang gusto kong sabihin kasi umaasa yung Negros ay yung Mindoro Oriental na sana wag na natin munang asahan kung dumating kung hindi tayong magkakasama tayo na lang ang mag-decide kung ano gagawin natin to soften the blow for Mindoro
Kaya kasi, Madam Chair,
Oriental, diba?
Okay, Madam Chair, kasi lahat ng tao umaasa dun sa insurance kasi malaking bagay kung ito sa $1 billion, that's equivalent to 50 billion pesos. Pero okay, I agree with you. I used to work for insurance companies in the States before. Alam ko yan, na kapag walang permit to operate, yung insurance maghahanap ng butas yan para sila makaiwas. Kung makaiwas mo sila, salamat. Kung hindi, at least babaratin. Something like that. Now in this case, ang butas sa inyo, wala kayong permit to operate. Hindi nyo ni-register sa amin yung barko ninyo para maging legit. So hindi namin babayaran yan. Yun ang gagamitin palusot ng insurance company. Dapat sinabi nyo na kay Gob, hindi pa kayo pasikot-sikot.
Madam Chair.
Senator
Salamat, Madam Chair. I share yung line of questioning ni na Chair at Sen Tulfo. Imposible namang may krimen laban sa Mindoro Oriental pero walang responsable at walang compensation sa kanila. So balikan ko lang, Madam Chair, yung pinoint out ninyo dito sa accident report ng Marina dun sa section on vessel documents, no, sa section ng factual information. Sabi niyo nga po, may finding ang Marina na the ship has no authority to operate in the form of an amendment to its CPC, Certificate of Public Convenience, issued to RDC Railed Marine Services Inc. to operate the MT Princess Empress in the domestic trade pursuant to the revised IRRs of Republic Act 9295. So pwede po ba nating malaman sa Marina or sa Coast Guard kung wala ang Marina dito sa ganitong mga sitwasyon? Thank you, Madam Chair. Marina, dito, batay po dito sa inyong accident report na kinuot ng Chair, sa ganito pong mga sitwasyon na wala pa lang amended CPC yung shipping company para i-operate yung ship. Tapos pag mayroon na ganitong sitwasyon, sino po, batay naman sa yung RA na kinuot ko kanina, ang magbibigay ng compensation, for example, sa local government doon or kahit sa mga mangingisda doon?
Madam Chair, if may. Yung CPC is issued to the company. Sa CPC niyan, nililista ang mga vessels under that CPC. May dagdag ka ng isang vessel, you have to amend. Yung RDC may pending application which we are going to hear pa sana, may hearing. May kulang na mga documents. So, i-hear pa natin yan. So, hindi sila na-issuehan kaagad. Yun ang
Hindi po na-issuehan ang RDC para makalayag ang Princess Empress.
Para ma-include sa CPC.
Yes, by amendment.
CPC by amendment.
Yes, sir.
So, kung may amendment na sila dyan, na-include sila, they can
So dapat, sir, kung wala pang amended CPC, hindi pa naidagdag sa CPC ng RDC itong Princess Empress, hindi dapat na nakalayag ito. Tama po.
Dapat po.
Okay, so we also have to find out, Madam Chair, paano ito nakalayag na hindi pa amended ang CPC ng kumpanya. But sir, Marina, sa ganito pong sitwasyon, nakalayag na po siya, nalubog na po siya, tumagas na po yung oil, naapektuhang malubha ang Mindoro Oriental at bantang naapektuhan na yung iba pang mga lalawigan at bantang maapektuhan pang iba. Sa ganito pong sitwasyon, sinong tutupad dun sa obligasyon, dun sa batas tungkol sa kinote ko kanina, di ko na mahanap, 9483, yung Oil Pollution Compensation Act. Sino po? Kasi imposibleng walang may responsibilidad sa Mindoro Oriental.
Yung Oil Pollution Management Fund, may contribution ng each tanker hauler using persistent oil, which is heavy oil yan na hindi nag-evaporate yun, or black oil or persistent oil. Yung each nag-haul na yan, nagbabayad sila ng 10 centavos, okay, per liter. Okay, as of now, ang total fund ng OPMFC is umabot na ng 63 million. Last Thursday ata o Friday, naka-receive ako ng claim ng Coast Guard. Okay, for the cleanup. Ngayon, if they want to claim for damages, the Coast Guard has to file a case in the RTC for that. Pero marirelease na namin yung asking ang Coast Guard ng 33 million 557. So, mamayang hapon sana po, we will meet, the Oil Fund Committee will meet to give the amount to
Pwede mo kasi, Chair? And,
Just one more
oh, good.
Just one follow-up at this point, Madam Chair, before I give way kay Sen. Tulfo. Balikan ko na lang po mamaya po yung Marina, pero po sa Coast Guard, Sir Vice Admiral Punsalan, ang Coast Guard po, siguro nag-conduct ng pre-departure inspection dun sa Port of Bataan. Nagkondukta ba ng inspection dito sa Princess Empress, ang Coast Guard?
Lumalabas po sa investigasyon po na may kulang sa kanilang pag-inspect, which is the boarding.
Pero nag-conduct ng inspection, di umano.
That is what our report says, ma'am. Kaya
Pero sir, meron po bang inspection na hindi binoboard yung barko?
yes, please.
If I may, Madam.
Madam Chair, si Vice Admiral Coime.
Thank you po, Senator Montiveros, ma'am. Ma'am, as submitted to us during the investigation, there was a submitted document and signed by the boarding team and ship master as far as master safety departure clearance. This is a document and SOP whenever the vessel seek for departure clearance. And secondly, there was a filled up document from the boarding team or boarding clearing team pertaining to pre-departure inspection checklist. Ito po yung finifill up po ng mga tao natin whenever they conduct inspection on board. So, these are properly signed by our personnel and acknowledged also by the ship master, ma'am.
So Vice Admiral, nakapag-accomplish po sila ng pre-departure inspection checklist. Ibig sabihin, dahil ginamit nila yung form na to, ibig sabihin, nakapag-inspect sila.
As per as our SOP, it should be on board, physical
Yes, sir.
inspection on board the vessel.
Pero sabi po kanina ni Vice Admiral Punsalan, kulang kasi kulang yung boarding. Ibig sabihin, hindi po sila nakaboard.
And this is what we really want to forward to National Headquarters to conduct administrative investigations pertaining to lapses of our personnel, if such is the case, ma'am.
Yes, please sir. Kasi ako layperson pero wala akong ma-imagine na inspection ng barko na hindi binord ang barko. And so parang dumadami yung mga list of agencies na possibly accountable sa nangyaring ito. Sa kabila ng mga heroic efforts nyo to respond, pero di ba sinasabi an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I'm sure alam na that bago pa nitong hearing at nako-confirm lang ng hearing namin kina Gov. Dolor yung mga agencies na dapat sana na napigilan itong mangyari. But at this point, Madam Chair, I'll give way to the follow-up question of Tul.
Madam Chair, thank you, Senator Riza. Tama nga yung mga katanungan ni Madam ni Senator Riza. General, anong rango niyo po?
Coast Guard Vice Admiral Coime po, sir.
Okay, sir. Sabi niya may sumampa, di po ba? So sa pagsampa doon ng mga personal ninyo sa barko, ano-ano po yung mga tinatanong nyo doon? Ano-ano mga dokumentong hinahanap nyo?
If I may, Honorable Tulfo, sir, this is a document accomplished by our personnel who are physically inspecting on board as per our SOP. And we call it departure inspection checklist. And may long list po dito, sir.
Sir, shortcut natin, huwag na baka abutin tayo mamaya alas 4. Ano lang po, kasama pa doon sa pag-inspect ng permit to operate? Doon sa barkong yon?
We call it, sir,
O certificate for convenience bang tawag noon? So, okay, thank you. So, meron po ba kayo?
and valid ship safety certificates and documents po, sir.
Meron po ba? Kinuha ba yun?
Sa checklist po nila po, sir.
Nasa checklist pero yun po ba yung na-check? Oo, nandiyan sa checklist pero pwede namang nandiyan sa checklist pero hindi na-check.
Wala po check, sir, yung certificate of
Okay.
public convenience.
So doon nagkaroon ng kapabayaan. Yun ang sinasabi ko kanina. Kung hindi lang sana naging pabayaan mga tao ninyo, hindi na payagan maglayag yun dahil kulang sa dokumento, hindi sana tayo nag-uusap lahat dito ngayon. Period. Yun po yun. So dapat, yung mga nag-check niyan, suwan at makulong. Dahil sa kapabayaan, dereliction of duty. Di ba? Ito yung mga supervisor niyan, kasuhan din. Kasi po, ulit-ulit na lamang to Madam Chair, marami na mga barkong nalubog dahil overloaded. And then malaman-laman, di kalaunan, hindi pala in-inspect yung mga taga-Philippine Coast Guard. Ito ngayon, walang permit to operate, walang karapatan na dapat maglayag itong barkong ito. And yet nakalusot dahil hindi in-inspect na mabuti, na maayos ng Philippine Coast Guard yung mga requirements needed para itong isang barko ay maglayag. If they only did that, wala sana tayo dito ngayon. Yun. So next time, wag na po ito mangyari. Dahil kapag nangyari po ito, hindi lang dapat ang kakasuhan yung mga nag-inspect. Yung commander na siguro kataas-taasan. Dahil paulit-ulit na lang to. Di mo ba? Thank you po, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
We recognize the physical presence of Senator Escudero. You're recognized, Senator
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Escudero.
Just to pursue the point of Senator Tulfo, sabi niyo po kanina, Senator Tulfo, dapat di na mangyari uli. May I ask the owners of the sunken vessel, kailan niyo po binili yung barko at ilang beses na ho ba naglayag ito?
The vessel was new. It was built 2022 lang po.
Again,
It's new. It's a new vessel po.
ito ba yung kauna-unahang beses na naglayag siya?
The one na lumubog po, hindi po.
Ilang beses na naglayag ito na wala pang CPC?
Hold on, allow me to ask.
Please. The point I'm driving at, Senator Tulfo, is anong next time? Nakailang next time na to eh.
Your Honor, that
Yes.
was the 9th voyage po.
So it has happened 9 times already. So 9 times from whatever port it left port, from whatever area it left port, the Coast Guard was supposed to inspect it, and the Coast Guard saw that there was no amended CPC yet covering this vessel. So kung sakasakali, Senator Tulfo, pangsam na to na oversight on the part of Coast Guard. So may we know, ma'am, the areas where it left port? Dahil baka iba't ibang sangay o supervisor o head ng Coast Guard ang tila na malikmata o tumingin sa ibang lugar at hindi ito pinansin o binati man lang ng siyam na beses?
Your Honor, allow me to consult my team.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, hindi po ako sigurado dun sa exact ports, pero according to my team, may Bataan and Manila? Manila,
Bataan and Manila.
yes.
So may we get a corresponding report as well from the Philippine Coast Guard in regard to these 9 trips that the sunken vessel undertook, still again without the corresponding CPC, and why they were allowed to continue with their voyage. Ma'am, earlier diniscuss yung insurance. You have an insurance, under the law you should have an insurance for each vessel, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hindi naman naka-attach po yung insurance sa CPC, di ba? Naka-attach yung insurance sa kada vessel.
Yes, Your Honor, precisely.
How are you able to get an insurance without the corresponding amended CPC to include this vessel?
As far as I'm concerned, sir, RBC as a company has a CPC. So yung amendment po, we applied as early as November. We've submitted all the documents required. The last submission was December. So, kumbaga sa insurance po kasi, they don't ask for the, I think they ask for the CPC, but the CPC, meron po kaming valid CPC. RDC po.
Do we have a representative from the insurance here? From the insurance company? Foreign. Ma'am, if you applied in November and made submissions sometime in December, as you said,
Yes, sir.
when was the first voyage of the ship?
Allow me to consult again, Your Honor, just to be
Please,
sure.
ma'am.
Sir, can you give us more time or can we go back to that question later on?
Approximately when? Hindi naman po kailangan yung petsa.
December din po, Your Honor.
Notwithstanding the absence of an amended CPC. When you completed the submission, nagbiyahe na.
Yes, sir.
Now, may I ask Marina, sir, would there be any reason for a company with an existing CPC na bumili ng bagong barko tulad ng kumpanyang ito, na i-deny nyo yung additional na barko na idagdag sa kanyang existing CPC? Basta kumpleto naman yung mga dokumento.
Madam Chair. No, we cannot, we will grant the amended CPC.
Basta makumpleto lang yung dokumento.
Ito. Saka after,
Ngayon,
ano.
I asked that question, sir, because my problem is Marina itself in this particular instance because kung tingin ng mga may-ari ng barko, igagrant nyo rin lang naman, makumpleto lang. I think that's the reason and basis why they assume na papalayagin na nila dahil ginagrant naman palagi ng Marina eh.
Mm.
Has there been any instance that you denied an application for a new vessel in an existing CPC?
Yes, we have. If the documents, they do not submit the completed documents,
Pero once na-submit yung kompletong dokumento,
we can grant to. And there is also, like a motor tanker, if once you, pag in-include mo sa amendment, may capitalization na involved. So, kasi dati ay, ano bang,
agreed, sir, I understand. I'm familiar with the industry.
okay.
Now, my question is there such an animal called provisional license to operate while it is pending before Marina?
We can grant temporary permit or special authority.
And then the amendment of the CPC.
Yes, but they did not apply for that.
In this instance, hindi po kayo nag-issue.
Hindi nag-issue because hindi sila nag-apply.
Ngayon, kulang ba po yung dokumento, kabilang na halimbawa yung mga dokumento na ligtas yung barko, nagko-comply sa lahat ng requirements, anong basis po ng pag-grant ninyo sa ibang sitwasyon ng provisional authority to operate without the completed documents being submitted as of yet?
From what I understand, yung kulang doon ng dokumento, mga financial statements at saka bank ano. So, once complied yan, kasi may hearing po pa dyan after the completion. So, once complied na yan, automatic we can immediately issue a CPC.
Abbreviate the proceedings, Madam Chair. May I just ask that Marina submit to us all pending amendments, applications for amendment to the existing CPCs,
Okay.
so that we can cross-reference it with the Philippine Coast Guard kung ano ba yung naglalayag na wala pa namang amendment sa CPC in order to fulfill
We will
the
do that.
desire of Senator Tulfo that this not happen again under the same circumstances, so that we can compare notes.
We'll do that, Your Honor.
Kindly do that, sir. Thank you, sir. Just two more points, Madam Chair. May I refer my questions to the OCD and the NDRRMC shared by, I believe, Secretary Galvez. He's not here anymore?
Secretary Galvez has to do something. So the
Who can answer?
deputy is here, the deputy administrator. Yeah.
Asik Alejandro,
Yeah.
Governor Bons and I were both governors before. yung huling kalamidad at trahedyang nangyari sa lalawigan ko nung ako'y gobernador pa ng lalawigan ng Sorsogon nangyari ng December 2019 sa pamamagitan ng isang bagyo na ang pangalan ay Tisoy. Awa ng Diyos, hanggang ngayon ho, wala pang binibigay ang OCD at NDRRMC sa amin. Nasubmit na lahat ng reports, binigay na po lahat, pero makalipas ang 3 taon, wala pa din po. Something must be done on the part of NDRRMC. I know it's an interagency body. I know it's comprised of secretaries of the various departments, but you must be able to find a way to hasten your procedures insofar as giving assistance. Ang laki-laki ng pondo ninyo sa Calamity Fund. Hindi naman nakakarating sa dami at sa hirap mag-comply sa mga requirements. Bilang halimbawa, at alam ni Gov. Bonsto, tinamaan kami ng bagyo. Siyempre, makalipas ang 1-2 linggo, alangan namang tumira sa ilalim ng puno yung tao, mag-iikaos yan, magsusumikap, pagawa yung bahay. Pag nagpunta ang OCD, ang NDRMC, makalipas ang 3-4 na buwan, nakatayo na yung bahay, wala na kaming patunay na totally damaged yung bahay. Ganon din to. Nandun yung langis, alangan namang hindi maglinis, hintayin kayo mag-picture at mag-document para mapatunayan nila na apektado talaga sila. Wala silang gagawin. Pag naglinis ngayon sila at nag-picture kayo, makalipas ng ilang buwan, wala nang patunay na talaga na-apektuhan na tinamaan sila at hindi nyo bibigay yung kine-claim nila. I think it's an unfair situation, gravely unfair situation if you expect people to simply sit idly by, not do anything, awaiting your documentation team to document the damage done. You have to take at some point in time the word of the local government unit for that. Kami naman yung on the ground eh. Kapag tama ng bagyo, nandun agad. Yung
Good noon, sir. Yes, sir, you're correct. Right now, sir, we are doing the review on how we process the request from LGUs. Our standing order from the Office of the President from the President himself is to review and incorporate already the recommendations of our LGUs when we do validation of the request. So we are trying to come up with a new policy or amended memorandum circular on this, Mr. Chair. And hopefully within the next few weeks or months, we'll be able to issue that and come up with a more streamlined process in processing requests from the local government.
I'm sorry, Asik, but that seems to be unacceptable. You've been there for 8.5 months since this new administration sat. And you're asking for a few more months to streamline your procedures and review your procedures. I don't think that is acceptable. Mauubos nyo na yung halos 1 taon ng panunungkulan ninyo. 5 taon na lang ang maiiwan. Ang dami ng kalamidad na tumama at dumaan sa ating bansa. Nasa review process pa rin tayo. Gaano karaming pondo ba binabalik nyo sa National Treasury dahil hindi nyo nagagastos? I can give the figures and submit it to the committee, Madam Chair. I just don't have it with me right now. But the point is, you have so much funds actually for calamity and disaster relief, but you have not been able to use it simply because your cumbersome procedures. And I'm quite disappointed, Madam Chair, that it's taken 8.5 months and still it's not finished. Hindi ba dapat yun ang unang-unang nagawa o ginagawa ninyo dahil aanin nyo yung mga pondong binigay sa inyo ng Kongreso kung napakatagal naman bago nyo ma-release at i-comply? Can you give us a definite date when these procedures will be streamlined and the corresponding memorandum circular will be issued to streamline these procedures as by way of commitment to this committee, Madam Chair?
Mr. Chair,
Madam Chair? It's okay. It's okay that Secretary Galvez left. I would just presume that whoever he left behind can answer in his behalf.
yes, sir. I cannot give the definite, sir, the definite date when we can finish, but we'll
Wag na
give
date, buwan na lang.
Yes, sir.
Buwan na lang, wag na date. Wag na araw, buwan na lang. What months? Again, you've been there for 8.5 months.
Yes, sir. We'll do it in 1 month, sir. Actually, we are already finishing our review already, sir. In fact,
End of April.
yes, sir.
That's reasonable enough?
Yes, sir. We have a draft already, sir, on that.
That's realistic enough too?
Yes, sir.
Ipa-publish pa yan.
That's a memorandum circular, sir.
So hindi na kailangan i-publish.
Ipa-publish, sir.
So 15 days after completion of
Yes.
publication or submission sa UP Law Center.
Yes, sir.
So hopefully it'll be effective by May.
1 month. Yes, sir.
Would that be correct? Can you include in your provision a retroactive clause that says that the new and streamlined procedures will also apply to previous and past calamities, because since this is a corrective memorandum circular, legally you can apply it retroactively too. Can you specify in your memorandum circular that it applies retroactively to previous and other claims filed or made by affected citizens and or local government units?
2 years. Yes, sir. It will be anchored on the GAA provision, sir, that it will apply to the calamities, yung 2 years period, sir. Before the 2 years, no? 2 years.
Sir, kaya lang naman may limitation ng 2 years aga kasi after 2 years kailangan nyo nang balik yung pera eh.
Yes, sir.
Di ba? Yun lang naman yung rason nun eh.
Yes, sir.
Kung wala na sa inyo yung pera, pwede naman kayo humingi ng supplemental budget. But I don't see any reason why it should be limited to 2 years only if the claim has not yet been paid. The damage has not been repaired as of yet, as we speak, even beyond the 2-year period. Kindly look into that, sir.
Yes, sir.
One last point, Madam Chair. Under RA 9483, the Philippine Coast Guard shall investigate motu proprio or through written undertaking of a complainant any incident claim for compensation, and shall forthwith file the appropriate action with the RTC. Has the Coast Guard ever done? Have you ever done this? In previous sea mishaps, have you ever done this?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Senator Escudero, sir. During the incident, the SolarWell incident, the Coast Guard was the one who filed the cases as to the claims of those affected by the incident. And they all were able to claim, and even the Coast Guard was able to claim already for that incident through the IOPC fund, sir.
This particular instance, do you intend to do the same as well?
We will, Your Honor, sir.
And this will be filed in the RTC of Mindoro Oriental?
Yes, sir. It depends on the legal team where they will be filing, sir.
That's
Thank you,
what the law says.
Yes, sir. It will be at the court of
Filed in the
jurisdiction.
area with jurisdiction where the incident, quote unquote, occurred.
Yes, sir. It will be at the court of jurisdiction, sir.
Independently, the LGU can also file. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, Governor Bonds, you can actually file either as a province or individually, together with the various municipalities, your claim. But I hope that whatever happens, government will have your back, because as Chairman Senator Cynthia Villar said, malabo man yung insurance, sigurado ako kahit maliwanag yun, matatagalan yan. At lugmok na sa kahirapan, gutom na at wala nang hanap buhay at kinakain yung ating mga kababayan sa Mindoro Oriental, hindi pa rin darating yung insurance bagaman gusto nila magbayad. So kinakailangan talaga ang tulong at ambag ng national government. Gayun din ang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan dahil maliwanag. Madam Chair, I'd like to place it on record. Walang LGU, kahit gaano kayaman, kahit Cebu pa yan, kahit Negros Occidental, kahit na Cavite, Batangas o Laguna, mayayamang lalawigan sa ating bansa ang kakayanin ang ganitong uri ng problema at sakuna na naganap kung saan apektado. Ang 9 sa 13, tama ba? 9 sa 15 munisipyo ng lalawigan ng Misamis Oriental. Mindoro Oriental, sorry. Last point on DNR. Ma'am, what is the DNR doing by way of planning sa pag-cleanup? Are you taking the lead in so far as the plans and programs of the cleanup is concerned? O kanya-kanya, bahala na si Batman?
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. Yes, the DNR has taken the lead, although we do conform to the protocol under the NOSCOP, where in the PCG, the Philippine Coast Guard is the overall team leader. We have designed our own programs, and we have also liaised them with the local governments as well as the different bureaus of the department. They will be po in our presentation.
Now, ma'am, under the law, I'm referring to Republic Act number 9275. The cleanup that should be undertaken by the guilty party, in this case, the ship owner, but government cannot sit idly by and can actually do some things. Under the law as well, the one I mentioned, you can ask that all of your expenses, the expenses of government, be paid by the liable party. I ask this question because are you coming up with a tab as to how much we have spent so far, including, Mama, not only the cleanup, but also what was lost by way of income of those whose properties were affected, or even if their properties were not affected, by way of lost earnings too. Dahil naapektuhan pa rin sila nung oil spill. Who is keeping tabs on this? Magkano ginagastos ng Coast Guard? Magkano ginagastos ng Marina? Magkano ginagastos ng DNR? Magkano ginagastos ng LGU? DSWD? Who is keeping tabs, ma'am? Is it DNR?
DNR is keeping tabs of its own account, sir, because we technically fall under a protocol that is levied by the Coast Guard, but we are keeping tabs, and as Governor Bonds knows, we have been closely coordinating with the LGU on this. So as far as the DNR po, we have done three things. If I may just jump towards our presentation. We have done the disaster forensics, sir, together with the UPMSI. We are now looking at the remediation costs, and we're also looking at the valuation po for the lost ecosystem services because of the impact assessment that continues to be ongoing, sir, because the spill continues. So we are doing the economic valuation based on methodologies that we have at the department, but we are also keeping tabs, sir, just to reassure you on what we have spent so far.
This is the first time I'm hearing something like this, actually, because I'm sure if I ask Gov Bonds, Gov, how much have you spent so far? What you'll tell me most likely is how much you appropriated by way of relief and cleanup. But you cannot put a monetary value insofar as mobilizing the people of the provinces, municipalities, and barangays are concerned. Would that be correct?
Correct, Senator.
May I ask the Coast Guard, ilang barko ang pinadala nyo para maglinis sa cleanup, sa containment and cleanup?
We deployed one helicopter, one Cessna plane, and about
Sir, how many trips? How many trips? What's the cost of the gasoline? And what is the man-hours cost as well? At paano yung wear and tear ng Cessna at helicopter? Do you have a way of computing it?
we will be computing it, sir, and we will be sending it to the good senator, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, but do you have an SOP?
Yes, sir. We have, sir.
Computed?
We have, sir. We have, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir.
Kindly submit that,
Thank you,
please, sir, as you go along.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
In
much.
order for us to have basis for the claims that will be made, may I give the same advice to the local government unit, both the province and the municipalities, in order for us to have a basis to file a claim before the funds that are available to us under existing laws, treaties, and conventions. That would be all, Madam Chairman. Thank you, and I'd like to thank our invited guests and resource persons. Thank you also to the family of the ship owner for answering our questions.
Thank you, Senator Escudero. We just want to give an opportunity for Governor Dolor to say something. Thank you.
Ma'am, we leave to the sense of the Senate the side of investigation. Finding the guilt, finding the non-performance of laws, it's your turf. Our concern in the local government is where are we going after this as far as our constituents are concerned. If I heard it right, I was so sad to hear what attorney from Marina said, Hernan, that there is a fund that they have around 63 million, and that even without Coast Guard filing a case against this issue, Coast Guard has already filed a claim using that insurance. I appreciate so much the efforts of Coast Guard, especially when Commodore Tobilla arrived last Friday upon my request to Commandant Abu. But ma'am, it pains me so much to hear that Coast Guard filed a claim for your cleanup. Even out without taking first the concerns of the local government directly affected, losing jobs and livelihood of the people. It's your job to do this cleanup. How come you claim first for yourselves? File your claim for your agency. Why not file first for the lost livelihood of our people? Bakit hindi mo na yun sana nawalang trabaho namin? Sana yun lang inunan niyo i-claim. Kung tama po ang rinig ko, malungkot sa akin yun kasi imagine nyo, trabaho nyo naman talaga mag-inis. Pero inunan niyo munang i-claim yung gastos nyo. Isa doon sa pamasahin ng mga tao namin, pang-tuition ng tao namin. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, pero masakit sa akin bilang gobernador. Kami ang apektado ng lahat ng ito habang nagkakagulo sa permitting. Pinayagan ninyo sa Marina na makabiyahe, wala pa ng CPC. Pinayagan nyo sa Coast Guard sa Bataan na makabiyahe 9 times without amended CPC. Kami na may problema sa Oriental Mindoro, hindi na nyo ang claim nyo. Makatao po ba yun, Madam Chair? Hindi kami naghahanap ng fault dito, bahalang kayo dyan maghanap. Pero apat ang concern namin. Una, matagpuan ng barko. Salamat sa Namria, salamat kay Secretary Loizaga. Tawag ni Secretary Gatchalian ang pumukaw sa inyong damdamin para ipadala agad. Dahil sabi niyo, hindi malinaw ang usapan ng Coast Guard sa inyo. 6 hours after that, dumating ang vessel. Thank you, Namria. Thank you, DNR. Ang sunod na kailangan natin papasukin ng ROV. Hindi ko to trabaho to ng Coast Guard na magpapasok ng ROV dito. Pero sinong gumagawa ng paraan? Sinong tumatawag kay Secretary Bautista? Sinong kumakausap sa PCG? Sinong kumakausap sa PPA? Bureau of Quarantine. Si Governor Dolor, Sabado, Linggo, pumipirma ng sulat. Kailangan, nagpapalit na naman ang insurance company natin ng barkong gagamitin. From Chinese to Singaporean to Japanese. Ginagawa niyo akong sekretariat. Palit ng sulat just to facilitate the arrival of this vessel sa ROV. It's not my job.
Nobody's in charge.
That's why, Madam Senator, I'm the one taking care because this is my province. Thirdly, aside from the ROV's arrival, ang concern ng Oriental Mindoro po, wag nang makarating sa tabi ng dagat. Tabi ng pangpang namin ang oil. Pero walang malinaw na plano. Buti na lang dumating yung bagong kobador namin. Ngayon, nagaanan ako ng konti. Thank you, Admiral Abu. Nagbigyan mo ako sa request kung ipadala mo si Commodore Tobilyan. May kapartner na ako ngayon sa incident ko ng toast namin. Kami ni na Mayor, walang tulog. Si Mayor ingat ako. Walang gulo. Hinahanap natin sagot sa tanong sa yung hearing ito ng Senado. Anong malinaw na plano para hindi makarating ng tabi ng dagat ang oil spill? Local government na nagmanis, can you imagine, palapa ng nyug. Ang mga mayors namin, nagputol ng palapa ng nyug, nagpaputol ng coconut husk para mapigil. Eh kung ito muna sana ang kinuha ng insurance ng Coast Guard. Di ba mas mabilis? And then lastly, yung ating response on clean-up drive. Thank you sa DSWD, thank you sa DENR, thank you kay TESDA, thank you kay Dole, thank you kay President. Thank you din kay Coast Guard in fairness naman sa inyo. Pero sana hindi kami ang nahihirapan to manage all of this. Enough na sa amin yung bugbog ng tao namin. Sana yun man lang trabaho ng national government, may mag-take charge talagang maliwanag. Thankful ako, Commodore Tobilya, you handle it well. Kaya lang, it's not enough. You're not the entire team. The national government should be there, one whole team. Kaya ang request ko, Madam Chair, mga senador, kay Secretary Galvez kanina, baka naman po pwede, yung NDRRMC, sabay-sabay mag-usap, isang cabinet dadating sa amin, thank you. Isang cabinet dadating sa amin, thank you. Isang cabinet dadating sa amin, thank you. Hindi ba pwedeng sabay-sabay? Hindi ba pwedeng isang upo lamang natin? Hindi ba pwedeng 10 chopper yung dadating sa aming lalawigan at mag-usap tayong 10? Inassure po ako ni Secretary Galvez before he left. We will host you there. Dumating kayong lahat. Yung regional directors na wala akong masabi. napakaayos. DOH napakaayos. Pero ang request ko lang po, with your indulgence, Madam Senator or Madam Chair, with the indulgence and with the leadership of NDRRMC and Coast Guard, isang meeting ng lahat ng Cabinet Secretary sa Mindoro gawin, para doon pa lang malinaw, ito, isang bagsak natin. We know that the government is doing its part. Ang kailangan lang natin dito ngayon, mas mabilis na aksyon. Sabi niyo, wag na muna kaming aasa sa insurance. Malungkot po sa amin yon. Ako naniniwala pa rin sa biyaya ng Diyos. Baka sakaling may magmilagro, may authority na po kami mag-file ng aming claims. Pero sabi ng insurance kahapon, I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Sabi ninyo sa amin, gusto ninyo mag-file kami ng claim na walang asunto sa korte. I will give you the benefit of the doubt for this week. The insurance company yesterday promised us you will put up claims this week. I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Ang concern ng local government namin, malinis na ito. Huwag nang makarating sa dagat, sa lupa at makakain kami. Pero after 1 week at walang nangyari, tandaan po ninyo, mababait po ang taga Mindoro. Pero huwag niyo sagarin ang pasensya ng mamamayan namin. Ako, ang aking mga punong bayan at ang mamamayan namin, we follow government rules. But you cannot expect all of us to wait until the arrival of the Messiah. We will do whatever we can within our grasp, mandate, power, and initiative. Make sure that there is a resolution on this case. Thank you very much, Madam Senator. We'll just be at the receiving end ngayon. Makikinig na lang po kami. After all, kung sino may kasalanan, parusahan. Kami po, ang concern namin, yung mamamayan namin mabigyan ng tamang kinabukasan after all of this. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Salamat po sa mga senador natin.
Maraming salamat, Governor Ontiveros.
Salamat po, Madam Chair. At ako po bilang apo ng Mindoro Oriental ay buong pusong nakikiisa dun sa panawagan ni Gov. At umaasa ako, Madam Chair, na sa pamamagitan ng komite natin at yung pag-uusap nyo ng chair ng NDRRMC, mangyayari po yung hinihiling nilang national government integrated response, kasi po talagang nangyayari sa amin ay emerging humanitarian crisis. So, yun po. One quick manifestation for the record bago yung mga tanong ko. Hawak ko po, Madam Chair, yung pre-departure inspection checklist for tanker ship ng Philippine Coast Guard. Ito po yung para sa Princess Empress. And hindi lang po isa, ito po yung boxes dito na walang check dun sa table na complete and valid ship safety certificates and documents. So isa na po, unang-una, yung Certificate of Public Convenience, CPC, hindi po talaga naka-check. And nakasulat po dito sa table, isa ito sa items, isa ito sa certificate na if not valid, detainable. And ito po yung ganyan na if not valid, detainable. Yung isa ay if no, to be rectified. And yet, kahit kulang ng 7 check sa checklist ay nakalayag nga, nakapalaot at nangyari nga ito sa Mimaropa at pati sa Western Visayas. So for the record, Madam Chair, document po mismo ng Coast Guard. So yung una ko pong tanong, Madam Chair, actually follow up na lang sa nauna ng mahalagang inputs ni Sec. Yulo Loizaga sa DNR. Salamat dun sa sinabi nyo sa aming chair na i-furnish nyo yung komite ng ulat ninyo tungkol sa trahedyang ito. Kasi I appreciate na hindi po tayo nagpapaligoy-ligoy. We really want to know gaano ba kasama ito at gaano kalaki yung scope ng damage. I wonder if you want to add anything to that, Sec.
Yes po. Thank you, Senator. We do have a presentation po that is composed of several parts, including our colleagues from UPMSI who are characterizing the hazard with the help of the Philippine Space Agency and NOAA sa US po. So if with your indulge po, we have actually a complete presentation on what the DNR has done.
All right, Madam Chair, if the Chair wishes, we could see the presentation before I continue with my questions. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Senator Ontiveros.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Sec, if I may just add I just had a last question. Baka pwede nyo na rin pong tugunan in the course of the presentation na gaano pong katagal at ano pong requirements in terms of human, technological, and financial resources para maglunsad po tayo ng honest to goodness clean up at rehabilitate po yung mga affected areas. Bukod po sa damage assessment, later on bukod po sa buo ng rehabilitation plan, ano pong papel ang ginagampanan ng DENR sa oil spill cleanup mismo? Salamat.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Senator Antiveros. Just to answer your last question first, we cannot calculate the full cost of this incident until the hazard is actually finished. And so that will continue for as long as the oil continues to spill. Madam Chair, if the leak is not plugged, the flow as estimated by the UPMSI will continue for the next probably 2 weeks if the leak is not plugged. And I will leave po Dr. Cesar Villanoy of the UP Marine Science Institute to describe the rate of the spillage at kung saan po sa data po. It's very clear po sa kanilang models and we base our intervention both on the ground to mitigate and a projection for the cost on the science that is provided by the UP Marine Science Institute and our colleagues in the different bureaus. So our presentation po is composed of several parts: the hazard, the exposure and vulnerability of both air and water, as well as biodiversity, both the ecosystems, so all the different aspects of the ecosystems, the coral reefs, the seagrass, etc. will be described in our presentation po.
And just before you make the presentation, Sec, salamat dun sa time frame na binigay nyo ng 2 weeks. Kasi within the 2 weeks, usok na po yung sinasabing 2 days within which baka umabot yung oil spill pati sa Verde Island Passage.
Actually,
Salamat.
Senator po, if we may clarify, and Dr. K. Villanoy will be the one to explain that as the winds change po, the direction of the flow will also change. And that's when the Verde Island Passage will be the most vulnerable. So ito po ang the introduction lang po to our presentation is we are risk-based in our analysis and therefore in our interventions as well as our economic valuations. These are all based on what we call hazard exposure and vulnerability analysis. The team is composed of several groups inside the DNR and our partners at the UP Marine Science Institute, as well as the support that we are getting from the Philippine Space Agency, from NOAA, and that's the US and NASA space technologies that are being made available, the products that are being made available to us. So if I may po, just go to the next slide. I will introduce the different presenters. We have 3 components: the context for our work, the NAMRIA updates, and in between, sir and Madam Chair, we will hear from UPMSI on their particular hazard analysis, which is the basis for our work. Then NAMRIA, of course, will also present its findings. So NAMRIA, UPMSI, and our bureau updates, both the Environmental Management Bureau and the Biodiversity Management Bureau that are on this incident po. So to turn over po to the presenter, I will introduce Undersecretary De La Peña, who will give us the context of our work, to be followed by NAMRIA and to be followed by UPMSI and the bureaus. Undersecretary po.
Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, good afternoon. Allow me to briefly describe the context and basis for the actions of the department in connection with the oil spill response operations. Next slide, please. PD 602 establishes the National Operations Center for Oil Pollution under the Philippine Coast Guard, and the Marine Pollution Decree of 1976 grants the PCG and the National Pollution Control Commission, now the Environmental Management Bureau under the DNR, the joint responsibility to address marine pollution. Further, the Philippine Clean Water of 2004, the DNR, PCG, and DA shall enforce water quality standards in marine waters. As per the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, or NOSCOP, the PCG's role is as an agency in command of the overall oil spill response, with other agencies or organizations mandated to play their respective support roles. Next slide. Pursuant to the support mandate of the DNR, immediately after the occurrence of the oil spill, the department, under the leadership of Secretary Loizaga, established the task force for the MT Princess Empress oil spill. The task force follows the Incident Command System or ICS organizational structure, placing key undersecretaries in command with the support of assistant secretaries down to the regional executive directors, regional directors, the provincial and community environment and natural resources, among others. The main objective of the task force is to implement all necessary strategic and tactical actions in order to facilitate immediate and long-term risk management strategies to mitigate the impacts on ecosystems and marine and coastal biodiversity. Next. Shown are the three parallel work streams of the department in response to the oil spill. Next slide, please. Disaster forensics, knowing the scientific circumstances in connection with the oil spill by specifying the environmental hazards, the vulnerabilities, and risks associated with the incident. Cleanup, mitigation, and remediation, habitats and ecosystems protection and regeneration. Shown, the DNR further follows the three levels for response escalation. Level 1, which govern actions within or near the seepage area. Level 2, actions in Pola and Wuhan as well as other coasts. Level 3, actions in areas beyond Mindoro.
Clarificatory question, Madam Chair, Yusek.
Yes, ma'am.
Pareho po ba ito or iba ito sa Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 ng Coast Guard?
It's different, ma'am. This is
Salamat.
levels. The levels are following the MSI, UPMSI tiered response. Next slide, please. Having organized the task force, the following are the immediate actions of the department. First, coordinated with the LGUs affected, including the governor and mayors of affected communities, municipalities, released information to the public, instructed NAMRIA to deploy the BRPH Ventura to locate the sunken tanker, conducted air inspection, site visits, and monitoring with UPMSI and field operations teams, conducted water and air quality assessment, conducted biodiversity and rapid assessment, conducted coastal and mangrove cleanup operations and proper waste disposal, deployed technical experts for rapid impact assessment and valuation. Next slide. Arranged cash for work for coastal cleanup with SWD and SOLE, coordinated with congressmen for situation updates, coordinated response priorities and anticipatory action with PCG, DOTR, NDRRMC, DSWD, DOLE, DABFAR, DNDOCD, DILG, DOT, DOH, and the LGUs, conducted a dialogue with local communities together with the DOH, DSWD, and DILG, sourced out support from private organizations, non-government partners, and assisting countries, briefed the President regarding updates on the ground, submitted daily situational reports for the President through the Office of the Executive Secretary. Next slide. To further elaborate the DNR actions, here is a matrix describing the chronology of the incident timelines vis-a-vis DNR response. At the onset of the incident, when the tanker was initially half-submerged on February 28, the DNR, through its regional office, already coordinated with initially the LGUs and the PCG for situation updates and monitoring. Subsequently, specific response activities were undertaken by the department. To name a few, the highlights include the initial meetings by the Secretary with the PCG, the Oriental Governor Dolor, and Nauhan Mayor Teves on March 1, Monday, immediately after learning about the incident. On March 3, the Secretary DNR, together with other key officials, did an initial aerial assessment and visit at Ground Zero. The Secretary also briefed the President on the same day and subsequently made direct coordination with the Secretaries of the DSWD, the DOT, the DOLE, among others, in the next days. The department also established linkage with the NDRRMC. Next slide. Here's the continuation of the timelines, which on March 5, the task force met with local officials at Pola. Also, it was the day that the NAMRIA located the possible location of the tanker. On March 6, there was the public announcement about the possible location of the sunken tanker as located by the NAMRIA. On March 7, the Secretary met with the local officials at Pola, followed by another briefing for the President. In the next days, important meetings were undertaken as shown. Presently, there remains the increasing risk to affected areas, leading to the continuous effort for assessment, containment, and cleanup.
Madam Chair, if I may just add to the presentation as already given by Undersecretary De La Peña. We note, please, that on March 2, we had authorized the deployment of the hydrographer vessel to locate the sunken vessel where it is actually lying po. The importance of this is to determine how the oil will actually be spilling based on possibly the location as identified by the NAMRIA vessel. So I wish to credit this to the advice of the UPMSI to actually first locate where the vessel actually is in order for us to be able to project the spillage that will occur because of the damage to the vessel. So UPMSI advised us on this. We mobilized on March 3 after the authorization on March 2. And by March 4, the vessel was deployed, our hydrographer vessel, BRP Ventura. And by March 5, despite the inclement weather and early morning, they were able to capture data which they later analyzed to actually be the possible site of the sunken vessel. So there will be a report by Namaria on this directly.
And Sec, tama po ba na yung tumatagas pa lang ay yung fuel ng ship mismo, hindi pa yung cargo nila na 800,000 liters?
At this point po, the estimation is that the cargo is already spilling. So it's not just the initial sheens po where the fuel of the ship, but the quality of what we see on shore is also an indication of the cargo actually already spilling.
So we're racing against time para iseal yung dalawang leaks na yon.
Yes, ma'am. Although we don't know that there are two leaks, the recommendation from the MRIA, which will be presented by Undersecretary Chanco, would be to actually have the ROV confirm the findings that BRP Ventura actually submitted.
Salamat po.
Thank you po.
Next slide, please. My last slide shown is the highlights of accomplishment by the numbers, ma'am.
So just to conclude po from Undersecretary, these are ongoing, and to answer your question on damage assessment, we are using several valuation methods. One of them is the method that was used when there was damage to Bataha Reef to actually calculate what the cost might be. However, on the long-term impact on fisheries income, BFAR would be the essential partner po in determining this. And so we're looking forward to working closely with them on our findings as well as theirs po. So if I may, maybe introduce Undersecretary Peter Tiangco, who will give the briefing on the location of the vessel.
Thank you very much, Secretary Yulo Saga. Esteemed Chairperson of the Senate Committee on Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change, Senator Cynthia Villar. Equally honorable members of the Senate, Secretary Loizaga and colleagues from the DNR, fellow public servants, distinguished guests, good afternoon. I will be presenting a brief report on the multi-beam hydrographic surveys undertaken by NAMRIA, and this was done by one of its survey vessels, the BRP hydrographer Ventura, to locate the sunken MT Princess Empress. Upon arrival at the search site at 1:35 a.m. of March 5, 2023, BRPH Ventura immediately ran parallel and perpendicular survey lines on the reported last position of MT Princess Empress. After covering an area of about 7 square kilometers, the vessel has to withdraw from the site because of very rough seas. Nonetheless, after the survey data was processed, a feature whose profile is very similar to the sunken ship was detected. Next slide. Hindi, yan. The ship returned to the search site on March 8, 2023 and surveyed a larger area. The same feature was detected and we believe this is the sunken ship based on the dimensions and its proximity to the last reported position, MT Princess Empress. Here are the processed images of the feature that was detected. The length, breadth, and height are similar to those MT Princess Empress. Furthermore, there is no reported sinking or shipwreck in the area since it was mapped in 2008. Next slide, please. The sunken ship is in an upright position and oriented south 44 degrees east. Next slide, please. Here is a summary of the report on BRPH Ventura. It surveyed a total area of 39 square kilometers and detected the feature at latitude 13 degrees, 19 minutes, 8.67 seconds north, and longitude 121 degrees, 31 minutes, 43.07 seconds east. It is located at a distance of 13.89 kilometers northeast of Balingawan Point, Municipality of Pura, Province of Oriental Mindoro. It is lying on the seabed in an upright position at a depth of 389.1 meters. Its current location is 264.7 meters southeast of the last position of MT Princess Empress. Next slide, please. Here is a comparison of the dimensions of the MT Princess Empress and the shipwreck. They have almost the same length and breadth. The difference in height may be due to the height of the ship's mast. Next slide, please. Finally, here is a map showing the location of the sunken ship. Next slide, please. Here is the location of the sunken ship as depicted on the official nautical chart of the area. And finally, we are recommending for the deployment of a remotely operated underwater vehicle for more conclusive endings. That ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yusek Chanko. We've been advised to just shorten our presentation, so we have opted to hear the presentation of UPMSI. The work of the DNR, EMB, and BMB is equally important po, ma'am, so you can see the impacts that we are seeing on the ground. So hopefully po, we'll have the opportunity to present those to you. EMB and BMB are here with the full presentation. But if we may, just so we can characterize the hazard and the risk moving forward, we would like to call our colleagues and our partners at UPMSI, Dr. Cesar Villanoy, if he can make the presentation on the current status of our hazard. Doc Kay, please.
Chair, Sec, just one quick. So 390 meters, so higit 1,000 feet po yun.
Yes, ma'am.
Na lalim.
Yes,
Salamat
ma'am.
po.
Dr. Villanoy, please.
Hello, good afternoon po, Secretary, and good afternoon, Madam Chair. Shall I share or?
Doc, if you may, please.
Ito na pala.
Yan na po.
This is, hindi, sa Coast Guard na presentation mo nito.
Maybe Q. Doc, would you like to share in the interest of time?
Okay, sige. So I'll just skip the first few slides kasi we all know location and the background nito, no? So we've been receiving satellite images from NOAA, and also PhilSA is already compiling and analyzing several images. But one thing that we can see from the images is the seepage from the sunken vessel is continuing, and it is all going towards the coast of Nauhan and Palo. And this is because of Amihan winds. So what we see in the images are actually just a portion of what is actually released. No, so we tried running a oil weathering model, which is developed by NOAA also on the what happens to bunker sea oil when you release that to the surface. And it says here that the model shows us that in the first 5 days, 9% is lost to evaporation, 70% is dispersed, so na mix with the water, nag-emulsify, or it's it breaks up into smaller spills. And what remains is just 22%. So what we see at the surface is just a fraction of what is actually released. So we don't know. We cannot compute how much oil is seeping from the ship, because even if we see different sizes of the oil slicks at the images, they're mostly a function of the wind. Kung malakas ang hangin, mas lumiliit yung slick. Pag kalma yung hangin, mas lumalaki yung slick. So this is the oil spill trajectory model we use. This is the model used by NOAA for oil spill response. Ang input dito, we get currents from global models of circulation ng ocean currents, and we also get the winds from the global forecast system. No? So one lang reminder lang na all these are global models. So medyo coarse yung resolution nila, no? Hindi natin masyadong ma-resolve some of our smaller islands. And we also specify the spill type, so either an area source or a point source. So these are the first few models that we run. Itong nasa left, ito yung when Secretary Loizaga flew to the area, and they were able to identify itong slick na nakikita dito. And then there were also reports of oil along the southern coast. So we use this as input to models, and we it showed na the spill was mostly going south, reaching Semirara and Kaluya Islands, and then eventually going to Cuyo. And if you run the model some more, and you will see that it ends up in mainland Palawan, Taytay area, and the model estimated that the oil will reach Taytay in March 12. And last Sunday, we got the reports that they found oil in Taytay. So we also tried running a model where there was continuous seepage from the ship. And because of the strong influence of the Amihan, most of the oil coming from the ship will end up along the Nauhan and Pola coast. So unless the wind changes, unfortunately, Nauhan and Pola will continuously receive oil if the seepage is not stopped. So these are some of the currents for March 10 to 19, and we can see that the currents in this area are starting to move towards the west and towards the northwest. No, previously, the week after the spill, the currents were moving south, but here in this model, they were starting to move towards the Verde Passage sometime next week. No? And these are also the winds. The winds are still blowing from the northeast. So amihan season pa rin hanggang sa 19. No? So malaki ang tulong ng amihan to limit the spill in a small area. Unfortunately, yun nga, ang Nauhan and Pola were bear the brunt of the spill. So if we run the model without the wind, with just the currents, ganito yung mangyayari, no? The oil will start to move towards VIP, towards Calapan and entering the Verde Island Passage. No? Pero, so the currents are already moving northwest. But if you add the wind, malaki talaga ang influence ng wind. So critical na ma-contain talaga yung seepage o yung leak from the ship before the amihan stops. Otherwise, other areas may be affected. So ito yung aming main messages that we've derived from the analysis, that the currents, ocean currents natin are already showing shift towards the VIP. So if you run the oil trajectory with just the currents, then definitely it will end up in the VIP. Fortunately, the winds are still amihan, so ganun pa rin yung pattern niya. It's still blowing towards the southwest. Pero yun nga, we are at the end of the amihan season. I don't know when it will end. Maybe Pag-asa can give us an idea when. Pero typically after Holy Week kasi nagiging summer conditions na yun eh. So maybe that's our window. We also need continuous monitoring along the coast for the presence of oil, because we need this to initialize trajectory models, especially in areas medyo malayo from the spill site. So so marami pa ring limitations sa model. It's still prone to errors. Pero yun nga, it's our best available information at the moment. And I think the main point here is we really need to stop the seepage from the sunken vessel. Yun lang po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Villanoy. As I said, we are driven by the science that we are actually tapping UPMSI as our partners. So there are two types of actions, Madam Chair, that we are taking. The immediate remediation for what has already impacted us, and anticipatory action to warn based on the different models, the different LGUs that will actually be affected or may actually be affected because of the change in the winds and the current. With the indulgence po, Madam Chair, I will ask the bureaus, they have done great work, to be very quick about their report on the ground remediation. And of course, the next steps in terms of needs, with your indulgence, Madam Chair, both EMB and BMB are here to actually report on their work. Yes, Madam.
Just a quick follow-up, Madam Chair, at this point in time. Dun sa sinabi ni Dr. Villanoy na it's critical to stop the seepage before the amihan stops on 19th March or basta before Holy Week. Sabi nila ito yung window. And well, dumadaan na sa Kalbaryo ang Mindoro Oriental para mas magkaroon sila ang probinsya namin ng resurrection at para mailigtas yung iba pa. Maybe, well, the committee will really be waiting for the recommendations from you. Ano yung urgent course of action nyo within these next, 6 days, 1 week?
Yes, Madam.
That the legislature can support. Salamat po.
Yes, Madam Chair, Senator, we will be presenting what we have done so far. Unfortunately, our assumption is that we will not be able to stop the seepage. So we will act as if we are on the worst case scenario po, in order to present our needs assessment also in terms of the collaboration between the different NGAs, and of course with the work of Mayor Delor and Mayor Ina and the rest of our distinguished mayors po sa Oriental Mindoro. If we may po, we will be very brief, so to respect the time element. But Madam, I think you should hear the air and water assessment results, as well as the potential biodiversity impacts that have been already mapped by our Biodiversity Management Bureau and our EMB po. So if we may turn over to EMB, Assistant Secretary Gilbert.
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and other members of this august body. In response to the oil spill incident, the DNR-EMB immediately dispatched monitoring teams in the area. In fact, as early as March 1, we've already started the monitoring of the water quality. In the course of the monitoring, we established immediately 10 stations along the coastlines of Oriental Mindoro and in the affected coastal areas of Semirari Islands. And our initial results during the period of March 1 to 8, we have we have exceedances in the water quality guidelines for oil and grease in these areas that we have taken samples. Also, we're doing air quality monitoring in some areas in the affected in Oriental Mindoro, and we're doing sampling both in the Seminary Islands, also in Oriental Mindoro, and we're focusing more on the H2S and VOC to determine what are the conditions affected by the deteriorating conditions resulting in the coastlines in the presence of the oil. And along with it, we're doing also cleanup we have initiated cleanup works in the coastlines. And then we're collecting oil waste and oil contaminated materials that have been washed down on the shorelines. And initially,
Can I ask a question?
yes po ma'am.
Kasi I read something na wala daw treatment, storage, disposal facility ang Mimaropa. And so yung mga kinukuha niyong waste, dadalhin niyo pa sa Central Luzon and Calabar Zone. Totoo ba yun?
Yes ma'am. In absence,
What do we do about that? I mean, I guess in the next budget, you have to build a TSD facility in Mimaropa. Ha?
yes ma'am. Nagkataon lang po,
Cover that. Oh.
wala po sa Mimaropa talaga available ng TSD facilities. So we're now depending on the nearest TSD facilities that can be made
The
available.
nearest.
There's one in Batangas that's serving for this one. So ito ma'am, we have already collected about 78.5 drums in Mindoro and 3,100 liters in Mirara Islands over the contaminated waste and oil waste that has been collected during the initial cleanup po in these coastal areas. So we're continuing to do cleanups and then we're gathering more of this waste po. That's all for EMB ma'am.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, ma'am, sorry, one slide back, please. With your indulgence, my apologies to Governor Dolor. I misspoke earlier. I said Mayor po. Sorry po. And so this is just a chart, really, actually a diagram showing the cash for work mobilization po that we spoke about earlier. This is in the collaboration with the DOLE and the DSWD po. So under the direction of Governor, so that we can actually stage the resources to the optimization plan of the LGU. Next slide, please. So may I please introduce who's doing the Asek Marsamaro, who will be doing the Biodiversity Management Bureau updates po.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, Your Honorable Madam Chair, Your Honors, colleagues in the DNR, fellow workers in the government, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me present the report and accomplishments so far of the Biodiversity Management Bureau, which is mandated to establish and manage protected areas, as well as manage coastal biodiversity and wetland ecosystems. Based on the created task force, the Bureau was tasked to undertake rapid assessment of the affected areas and explore mechanisms for the economic valuation of the impacts. So basically, our team, the teams led by the Biodiversity Management Bureau, worked from March 6 to March 10 with counterparts from the DNR field offices and the provincial and local government units in the region or impacted municipalities and communities. Particularly as they employed the aerial survey, ocular survey, shoreline walk, photo documentation, and interviews because of their limited capabilities to be on the site. Next slide, please. Basically, this slide would provide a composite of what the team has arrived at in terms of coming up with the 58 barangays covered in the assessment in the 9 municipalities with the degree of oiling categorized as none, low, moderate, and high, as well as the ecosystems that are potentially affected or impacted, such as corals, seagrass, and mangroves, as well as the locally managed municipal fishery protected areas, and sightings of turtles as well as nesting sites. Yes. Next slide. So basically, we have this assessment. So what we have already confirmed as damage are 10 hectares of mangrove areas in Pola, in Barangay Kalima. But in harm's way, in the 8 areas where oil spill has been observed are those reflected in the table. So basically, over 2,000 hectares of corals, 1,000 hectares of seagrass, and over 1,600 of mangroves. So there are also 25 out of the 58 barangays where there are sightings, reported sightings of marine turtles, including recorded nesting. So that would provide for additional damage. Next slide, please. So from the team's observation, we came up with these recommendations for our DNR field office for us to conduct a thorough assessment of the affected sites after certain period, depending on the impacts. Economic valuation, which is ongoing with experts coming from their experience, as mentioned by the Honorable Secretary in the Tubataha Reef incident, and also capacitation on wildlife handling, because we expect that some wildlife may be affected later on if the oil spill would really move further inwards, and perhaps replacement areas of the nesting sites if already confirmed, as well as updating of the coastal resources management information in the affected municipalities. Next slide, please. We will include also report on the rapid assessment done in Region 6, particularly in Antique, over the same period. Basically, the region also employed interagency rapid teams composed of DNR personnel, the PENRO and CENRO, over 4 barangays which were visited. Next slide, please. And they reported this observation where there was this oil spill impact, particularly in Semarara and Tinugbok, as well as in Liwagaw Island. The total habitat affected are indicated on the screen, but basically we were able to conduct only shoreline assessment. The other ecosystems were unable to be determined because of limited capability, and considering that we have coral reefs and seagrasses to be determined as well. Next slide, please. So basically, there is also this set of recommendations for the region concerned that of cleanup to proceed, particularly with focus on the oil debris and solid waste found along shorelines and mangrove areas, the collection of subsurface oil that penetrated already the sandy sediments, as well as rehabilitation that shall commence after the habitats have shown signs, after they have shown signs of recovery, because there is always this tendency for them to rebound from these incidences.
35 hectares lang ito.
So I guess that's all, Madam Secretary, as far as the BMB report of assessment is
Thank you
concerned.
very
Thank you,
much,
ma'am.
Secamaro. Just to conclude, we have a summary of needs moving forward, Madam Chair, with your indulgence. Just 2 more slides that will actually indicate what we feel are the gaps so far in terms of what might be needed, of course, to be further validated with our LGU partners, and also ways forward and what we have received the way of offers for donations, as well as partners from our foreign assistance. Next slide, please.
Tulungan sa dami, hindi mo kaya.
So just table, oh, excuse me. Could we go back one slide? Just a table, we've classified, of course, we're further detailing with our LGU partners, the needs of communities, as we have, of course, already observed, livelihood support for fishing, tools, equipment, alternative livelihood, family food packs, continuing po with the DSWD, and PPEs, which are continuously needed in order to remediate the sites. The needs for the cleanup, again, supplies and materials that are related to the cleanup itself, haulers and transporters, on-site treatment, TSD po, Madam Chair, as you've pointed out, PPEs for our teams, and of course, the compensation for augmenting teams on the ground. Technical assistance, which we continue to have po, needs for air and water testing. We have laboratories that are running overtime and hoping to tap our local universities to also help us waste management, and protocols for the cleanup of mangroves, and our assistance from our higher education institutions, as well as our foreign partners for impact assessment, which are ongoing po. Next slide, please. Just so we are also accounting for the donations and assistance that have come to us at the DNR, may we just cite the organizations of our there on the list, including our foreign partners who have come from a very early stage. The US, Japan, France, and the Republic of Korea have all indicated their willingness to support. And private companies as listed po in the slide. Finally, our ways forward. In closing, so as you can see, Madam Chair, we have also plotted out our ways forward, which are continuing to evolve because we are assuming the worst will actually happen, that we will not be able to plug this seepage, and therefore this is a rolling plan that will respond to the conditions on the ground as well as to the needs of our affected communities. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretary Loizaga and the DNR. We continue now with the question of Senator Risa.
Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair. And kay Secretary sa buong DNR family. I apologize, I have to leave for a 1:30 meeting, Madam Chair. Pero kung pwede kong i-make off record na lang, I have a number of questions pa kasi sana, pero at least just the maybe four most important, baka ang ating resource persons would care to respond to them moving forward. Or kung may second hearing pa, Madam Chair, babalik na lang po ako. Pero sana isa pang tanong sa Marina, kung pwedeng malaman kung ano ang lagay ng fundong, binanggit na rin po kanina, I think ni Sen Tulfo, yung Oil Pollution Management Fund, magkano ito ngayon, although may narinig po akong parang 63 million kanina, at kung nakikipag-coordinate na ang Marina sa Coast Guard para sa particular na insidenteng ito. And then, follow-up questions for Harbor Star Shipping Services and Malayan Towage and Salvage Corporation. Kung pwedeng malaman exactly kailan sila nagsimula magtrabaho dun sa Mindoro oil spill. Anong specific services ang pinoprovide nila? Gaano nang ka-advance sila sa kanilang trabaho? And as experts sa kanilang assessment, ganong katagal para makumpleto yung trabaho nila? Secondly, for Harbor Star, Madam Chair, for the record, na-mobilize na ba ng Harbor Star yung sinabi nila sa isang press briefing na kaagad daw mag-hire sila at magbabayad sa mga displaced fisher folk para tumulong sa cleanup operations? Kung nagsimula na sila, paano nila sisiguruhin na adequately protected itong mga kababayan nating mangingisda mula sa harmful effects ng direct contact sa industrial grade oil na ito? And last but not the least, Madam Chair, just for the record, marami-rami ko pa sana mga tanong, may mga community efforts na rin po kasi na ginagawa ang mga grupo tulad ng Protect Verde Island Passage, and I see Protect VIP here, Madam Chair, upang maprotektahan ang kalikasan na pinagkukuhanan ng kabuhayan. Makikita natin sa mga news reports na gamit ang mga ordinaryong bagay tulad ng mga coconut husks. Kanina po may nanote ako dun sa presentation ng Coast Guard. Hindi ko na mahanap sa notes ko. May binanggit po silang indigenous booms, may binanggit po silang coconut, may binanggit po silang hay. So meron na pong nangunguna tayong mga grupo ng mga kababayan tulad ng Protect Verde Island Passage. So tulad ng mga coconut husks, tinali-tali para pigilin yung langis na lalong kalat. So, paano yung mga plano ng iba't ibang stakeholders na nandito, Madam Chair, makakasuporta, makaka-scale up, makaka-complement sa mga efforts na ito. So, ayan, ito na si ating Senate President Pro Tem. So maraming salamat, Madam Chair, at sa lahat ng resource persons at lalong-lalo na rin sa ating mga pinuno mula sa Mindoro Oriental na tama po si Gov, sila yung pinaka dapat pakinggan, at Gov, nakikinig po, naririnig po kayo ng aming komite sa pamumuno ni Chair, at sana po moving forward, but quickly moving forward, madinig din po ang Protect VIP at yung iba pa pong groups on the ground na gusto makipag-ugnayan din po sa DNR at ibang ahensya para maproteksyonan din ang Verde Island Passage. Salamat po, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Risa. We will get your questions and we will ask the pertinent parties to answer and we will give you the answer. We now recognize Senator Lauren Regarda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We appreciate the presence of all the government agencies. We appreciate the presence of our affected local government units led by Governor Dolor. And I would just like to ask a basic question, which in the past 5 hours, I believe has not been answered. Who is coordinating the work of the different agencies to put a stop to the oil spill? Is it Marina? Is it Coast Guard? Is it the Philippine Navy? Is it the DNR? Is it the vessel? Is it the private sector? And this is just with regards to the oil spill or the leak. I saw the comprehensive report of the DNR UPMSI, and they are mentioning about the worst case scenario in case the 800,000 liters is not contained. So we have the way forward. Obviously, we did not anticipate this in AGAA, so all the recommendations, while it looks good, and thank you for that, it's not provided. But I will amend that by saying, yes, it's not provided, but it could be provided because there is such a thing as the local DRRM funds, which I'm sure Governor Dolor knows much about, and my colleagues, which is 5% of the IRA, Internal Revenue Allotment, and the other revenues of every LGU. 30% of that 5% can be used for quick response fund, and 70% of that 5% can be used for preparedness and or response and rehabilitation. Having said that, I believe, ako nang uuna sa'yo, hindi po yan sapat. Ano ba naman yung IRA ng Oriental Mindoro at yung halos 10 na LGU? Ang IRA ng aming probinsya at sakop ang ilang barangay, ang ilang sityo sa barangay Semirara at yung isang isla ay maaring hindi rin sapat. Having said that, there's 17 billion allotted in different government agencies, namely DA, DepEd, DPWH, 11 billion, DSWD, which the agencies have been utilizing in giving their own individual agencies response by going to the area. And I thank Secretary Rex Gatchalian that he provided immediately for Semirara through my office and my brother Congressman A.A. Legarda. So I'm grateful for that. I'm sure Sec Rex, upon knowing of the spill, texted me about it, and he was in Mindoro at the time. So we're grateful for that, and the other agencies as well. But aside from the 17 billion, which is allotted to the different agencies, is 20.5 billion lodged under the NDREAM law. And I know that because when we were Sera Finance, we used to allocate that. That is under it with the DBM, but it's an NDREAM fund which should replenish the local LDREAM fund, 30% of which is the QRF. So all of these, Madam Chair, are funds available in the national government and the local government. Having premised my query on that, I asked our colleagues in government in the executive department, sino po ang overall in charge base sa ating kaalaman, base sa batas, na siyang nagkukumpas? DNR, gawa mo yan. Si DNR, alam ko bang kinukumpasan ni Sec Loizaga, BMB, EMB. DOH, meron may nausea, meron may vomiting, meron may LBM. Sino nagkukumpas? Marina, may mga angal sa Marina, o Coast Guard under DOTR, etc. So who among the government agencies present here, or maybe hindi na ipatawag para ipatawag mo namin sa susunod, ang siyang namumuno ng lahat na to. Kung nasagot na po ito earlier at maliwanag na sa ating kaisipan kung sinong in charge, siya po ang tatanungin ko. Pero mukhang wala. Kasi nung nagsalita si Governor Dolor kanina, ay para silang hilo rin at hindi alam, although we are grateful, and he is grateful, that individual agencies and the cabinet members and or representatives have helped Mindoro and Antique. So back to my question, and anyone may answer, especially Dream Head. Who is our Dream Head? Where is he? The Dream Head is SND.
Secretary Galvez po, pero may meron po siya.
Okay, but he left. Who is the substitute who will answer for Dream?
Andito po yung
ASEC. We have the deputy administrator. Anyway, so we will leave it at that. I just want to know from the agencies present, sino po, who is coordinating all the efforts? Or if there is no head yet, I would suggest, with the cooperation and support of my colleagues, that there should be a head agency. Hindi pwedeng piecemeal. Pag hindi humingi ang LGU at hindi umiyak sa inyo, pupunta ang mga ahensya, tutulong, pupunta mga senador, mga congressman, etc. Who is said?
He's raising his hand, the one from the Philippine Coast Guard.
Sige po.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for that question and for recognizing
Did
me.
you face your name? Kasi po, malayo.
Sorry.
Yes.
Vice Admiral Punzalan po.
It's okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po for, again, thank you. Vice Admiral Punzalan po, ma'am. Well, baka po makatulong, this may be helpful that on ground, on the incident command post, we have our unified incident command post. This is headed by a commander, a senior officer in the person of Commodore Tuvilla. So sa cleanup operations po natin, ito po yung ginagampanan pong role ng Philippine Coast Guard, but I hope it can help as regards the cleanup operations. Thank you, ma'am.
Sinasabi po ninyo, thank you sir, kayo po bilang Coast Guard ang in charge on the ground. When you say on the ground, sa clean up, when we say clean up that the damage has been done. It should be containment and then clean up. But this is just one part of the whole problem. It should also be immediate assessment, but then pag assessment, it means the harm has been done. And then there's a socio-economic aspect. So, sino po sa inyong lahat na mga ahensya nandito or baka wala dito yung tao na in charge? There should be one commander. I mean, you know what I mean, yeah? I mean, I went to military school. It's very clear. Hindi pwedeng marami pero walang nagtitimon. And that is why I understand the confusion and the frustration of Governor Dolor. Naghanap po siya ng ulo na kung sino pong in charge sa lahat po ng magigiting na kasamahan sa gobyerno. At yun ang po ang gusto kong tanungin.
Madam Chair.
Let me just ask Coast Guard Vice Admiral Punsalan, sino po ang nagtalaga sa inyo or para po maintindihan naming lawmakers, anong batas ang nagsasabi na ang Coast Guard po ang in charge sa lahat po ng assessment, containment, clean up of whether it's a oil spill, aquatic pollution, ano ba ho? Or you took it upon yourself, even if you're all confused, then thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, I stand corrected. Hindi po lang clean up, in as much as that is what we're doing right now, really aggressively, but including containment, ma'am, and retrieval. So, tama po kayo when you said so. Ngayon po, ang basis po for the Coast Guard to be the commander of the Unified Incident Command Post for these operations that I just enumerated is cited in Section 3 of Republic Act 9993 or the Philippine Coast Guard Law. In layman's term, ito po yung protection of the marine environment in that respect. Kaya po may National Oil Operation Center for Oil Pollution. But as regards the other aspects, which was very clearly discussed, I can no longer give a comment for that, ma'am.
So clearly, you are in charge and sabi nyo may unified command pero limitado rin po. But in your to your knowledge and your awareness ay wala pong overall in charge. Iba pa yung mandate pa ng DNR, iba pa mandate. So who can enlighten me? We cannot have different agencies while well-meaning, well-funded with the resources. It's just the start of the year. We have the resources, and I mentioned the source of funds aside from the individual agencies QRF na walang in charge. Pag hindi ba humingi ang gobernador, ang mga mayor at gumalaw ang mga senador at congressman, hindi. May kusa naman kayo at alam namin yan. Pero dapat ay meron tayong roadmap. Di ba? Alam natin. So, hindi po natin alam kung sino in charge. I saw Secretary Loizaga raise her hand. May I know, are you taking the lead, Secretary Tony, to lead all these agencies of government for a coherent, comprehensive response to reduce disaster risk, to mitigate the impact and contain the oil leak and the oil spill, and to address the socio-economic impact on the livelihoods of our poor fisher folks and communities?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may go back to our presentation, our slide number 1 actually illustrates the agency mandates according to the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. And in that table, you will see po there the division of labor, so to speak, on the different agencies and what they are supposed to do depending on the escalation of this disaster. So it's very clearly spelled out po in this document and has basis in law. But
we know the division of law and we saw the presentation, but
yes, ma'am.
who is in charge? Who's the battalion commander? Who is the commander? Who's
If I may, ma'am.
May I know? I saw your presentation. You're just one agency. Who will also coordinate, let's say, for all the food packs? That's covered by Rex, hindi si Tony. I mean, you're doing what you can. Coast Guard is doing what they can. But who is coordinating with all of you? Should it not be NDRIM? It should be the NDRIM. Actually, I asked a question which I know the answer. I was hoping you would answer me that. It's a 2010 NDRIM law. NDRIM. That's why who in NDRIM is in charge. Secretary Galvez was here earlier. I know he had to leave. Sino sa NDRIM ang in charge? So maybe we're wrong, but each agency has its mandate. We heard it. But who's in charge totally na itinatahi-tahi lahat ito? No one can answer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Madam.
Madam Chair,
You.
if I may, ma'am, if I may enlighten.
yes,
I'm Commodore Tubuya, ma'am. I'm the newly designated incident commander. Good morning to everyone. Right now, ma'am, on the ground, I'm the one liaisoning with all the stakeholders and concerned agencies pertaining to our operation. And among the members of my Unified Incident Command, of the province of Oriental Mindoro. That is the reason why all these things that are moving around in Oriental Mindoro, like the entry of the Japanese strike team, goes under our command, so that we could accompany them and designate them to areas that we need the assessment. So, with regards to the food packs like that are coming in our on the ground, ma'am, the PDI, I designate or give instructions to the members kasi unified yung ma'am eh. I'm giving the direction po.
Yes, very clear.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commodore. I will answer my own question, and this is for the enlightenment of all agencies. While it is an old law, it is defined in the law so clearly, and we must act as one, so to speak, based on this 2010 law. In Section 15 of the NDRIMC Law, Republic Act 10121, coordination during emergency, and clearly this is an emergency, the local DRIMC, in this case, the provincial DRR officers, in our case, Antique, in your case, Mindoro, shall take the lead in preparing for and responding to and recovering from the effects of any disaster. But of course, these are provincial, local LDRIMs, and they all will meet towards the national Dream C. That is why Congress, the Senate, put the 20 billion under the national NDREAM, and the local also have their own local DRR funds, and every agency, including DNR, has part of the 17 billion. So the answer to my question, sirs, is the NDREAM. Kaya wala ngayon si Secretary Galvez, andyan siya na umaga, sino po ang sasagot sa akin na nagre-represent po ng NDREAM? Kasi may secretariat yan. You're a coordinating council. You should coordinate with DNR, with DOH, with DSWD, with the APFAR, how many fishing boats are needed, with the PWH, nasira yung seawall, o ganito, natumihan, walang daungan ng mga mangingisda, DILG, ano ang kailangan, di ba? Ganun po. So, NDREAM. Nung panahon namin nun, ang NDREAM, di ba, may OCD secretariat, at may executive director. I am not certain how the setup is now. May I know, sir, is the OCD here, or which then was the secretariat of the NDREAM present here, and can you answer these questions? And are you, NDREAM National, performing the task of coordinating with all these men and women as well as the local governments?
We have here ASEC Alejandro to answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Bakit po yung deputy? Sino po yung administrator? Deputy. Si Secretary Galvez ang administrator, kayo po ang deputy? No.
The administrator is Yusek Nepomuceno, ma'am.
The administrator, the NDREAM, the chair of the NDREAM is the SND.
The chair, ma'am, is the SND.
Yes, I know, that's our law.
The executive director is
the head is the administrator.
the executive director of the
Yes,
council.
where is the executive director, sir? Because he should be the executive director of NDREAM, based on what I said, is supposed to talk to you this way. February 28, it happened. Midnight, you should be talking this way. Tapos nag-uusap, anong assessment? Then all the reports of every agency that we've been
ASEC, where is your administrator? I thought it's Secretary Galvez.
He's the chair.
The chair, ma'am.
Where is your administrator?
Nasa Aguinaldo po, ma'am, meron siyang important meeting.
Does he know that there's an oil spill?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he in charge? Has he met with all of you present in this committee hearing?
Yes, ma'am. He has met the governor himself
Yes.
last week.
Okay, can you
We have
speak
been
with him?
coordinating, ma'am, regarding this one.
Sige.
But because we have a contingency plan that we follow, which designates the Coast Guard as the lead when it comes to the oil spill response. So our role basically, ma'am, right now is to provide augmentation to the Coast Guard and to DNR when it comes to coming up with support. But pag sinabi po, ma'am, na hindi na kaya ng provincial, then our regional Dream C is there to support. In fact, we have activated our Dream C already.
They said that you are the secretariat,
Yes.
not the one in charge.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
the secretariat coordinating.
Yes, kailangan ng coordinate sa lahat ng ahensya para hindi mararamdaman ng LGU na parang ulila sila na walang
Think, Senator Lauren, maybe we should ask the president to assign the head.
maybe. Yes, that's why we're
Kasi
asking.
ito, secretariat lang to
Secretariat.
Oo, hindi ito ang head eh.
Ha?
Oo.
That's why, yes, I was going to that. I was going to make a recommendation. I'm glad that the chair mentioned that. Sana, segundahan mo na yung aking motion, Madam Chair. Seeing the absence of a clear head of this monstrosity, of this emergency, of this, it's not just an oil spill, it's an aquatic pollution, it's an ocean spill, because it's not just, it's the 800 liters and not yet there. So this will be continuing not for weeks, not for months, for years. Ting Baho and Dream C, face-to-face or Zoom, ilang beses na po kasama Baho ang mga lokal na pamahalaan ng Antique hanggang sa head ng barangay at mga head ng purok at sityo, pati na rin po ang mga mayor at gobernador at mga barangay captain ng affected towns. At 2 weeks may needs assessment na by the time na kalat na Baho ng NDREAM C OCD Secretariat ang needs assessment at naibigay na ba sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno para po magawa. So, maliwanag, iba yung containment at cleanup, iba yung socio-economic at health needs po ng tao. ASEC, I'm sorry to have to put you through this. Kayo po ang nandito humaharap. Ano po ang sagot?
Yes, ma'am. We have been meeting on this since day one. In fact, through VTC, we have met the Coast Guard, the DNR, and other agencies. And personally, nakapunta na rin kami sa Mindoro. And we have designated our regional director there as our task force head to support the effort. And we have reports, ma'am. We have consolidated everything. In fact, based on our updates this morning, we have consolidated the cost of assistance that every agency has provided, and we are continuously doing that. In fact, we have placed on red alert status our operation center specifically to cater to the needs of this emergency po.
Can you give us that report,
Yeah.
the costings of the different agencies which contributed to the oil spill?
I'm glad you mentioned
Give us a
that.
copy.
Yeah, kindly provide
we
the
have this
committee.
report.
Magkano na po ang total na assistance na nabigay po lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno sa nakaraang 2 linggo? February 28, February, so that's March 13, so 14.
Yes, ma'am. To date, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Madam Senator, it's already placed at 20.5 million pesos, 18.8 million of which came from DSWD, and then from OCB, 281,000, and then from LGUs. Also, based on our coordination with DSWD, they have on standby 745 million pesos standby funds, and for OCD, we have around 466,000 million pesos
okay.
on standby.
Let me state.
1.2 billion, 400 plus 700.
1.2 billion or did I hear 25 million?
Yung standby fund,
Kasi
700.
magkano na po ang ginastos nyo?
It's 20,
5 million.
close to 20.5 million pesos.
20 million pa lang po.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That excludes the food for work.
Yes,
that,
ulitin po. 20 million. 2 probinsya. Actually more. 3 probinsya, 2 rehiyon.
they have a standby fund. Sinabi din sa akin yan ni Secretary Galvez sa OCD na 400 plus million. Tapos sabi niya meron sa 700 plus million ng DSWD.
Yes.
Paalala ko po, meron po kayong 17 billion lodged in various agencies, including DNR, DOH, DepEd, DPWH, etc. Tingnan po nyo yung allocation. I can give it to you here. It's in the GAA. And you have 20 billion under the NDREAM C, and make sure that that is also utilized, although that is for the whole year, for the whole country. But this is an emergency that will affect the livelihoods. I don't think 20 million pesos ay mararamdaman po ng lahat.
Yung DNR, malaki na rin na nagasta niya. Wala namang nakalagay doon eh. Kaya I think that's understated. So,
I don't think it's
update na lang.
trigger, NDREAM C, meeting lahat. Kundi pa nagpatawag ng meeting ang Senado, mag-uusap-usap ba kayong lahat? To be very candid here, Madam Chair, it's been our comment often as senators that nakikita-kita lang ang mga ahensya ng gobyerno, hindi ko punod nila lahat, pag nasa committee hearing o nasa budget hearing o pag may mga investigasyon gaya nito. Parang bang kayo, you exist in isolation. So, dapat nag-uusap-usap. This provision of NDREAM law of 2010 should have been triggered on February 28 when this spill happened, because every LGU has a local DRR officer. Every they report to the province. and it, instead of cascading, goes up to the provincial and to the national NDRIM. Hindi po nyo kasalanan, ASEC. Kayo po ay deputy administrator. The administrator should have been here, and the NDRIM dapat may merong daily reports. So, all these agencies, okay, iisa-isahin ko. Si Coast Guard, si DOLE, si Marina, si Namria, lahat ng binanggit natin ay nag-uusap ba ng madalas para tunghayan yung pangangailangan ng Nauhan, ng Pola, ng Semirara? Maaring ginagawa, pasundot-sundot, pero yung talagang komprehensibong converge, parang hindi po. So, Madam Chair, may I propose that the President designate among agencies, hindi tayo maglalagay ng bagong tao, i-brief pa. As a head, there should be a head na nagkukumpas. Kung ang orkestra, meron ba to na para maayos ang musika? Kung ang Senado, may Senate President, may leadership. Kung ang Kongreso, lahat kailangan may kung batalyon, may leader, may commander. Di ba po? Kailangan may ulo.
Lauren, we will write the president that to assign a head for this Operation Oil Spill.
It's my humble suggestion. I'm glad the chair agrees. Okay, having said that, may I know, so two things I want to know. First, the prevention, containment of the spill that was described by DNR based on the UPMSI. Who is responsible for doing that? It's been answered earlier. I just want you to restate it before the end of the hearing. How much will it cost? And how much of the damage will be mitigated if that cost is given to you? And do we have the technology, the know-how, the skills, and the warm bodies, the people to do it? That is containing the spill. I will tell you my next question. Prospectively, all the livelihoods affected in the 3 provinces thus far and the other provinces that will be affected if the spill and the worst case scenario is not if it happens, how much will it cost and what is being done about that? So the scientific answer on the technology and the human resources needed to contain the spill and the human resources and the financial resources needed to provide livelihoods to the people. Who will answer? Because there's no head, we will not be able to answer. I am certain perhaps that the agencies can answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair, Senator Legarda, ma'am. Ang aking pong sagot na maibibigay po, it is part of the mandate of the Coast Guard to undertake containment, abatement, and mitigation of oil at sea. So kung kaya't, I will further describe na 3 layer po siya. We have offshore, which is nautical miles away from shore. Then we have near the shoreline, and then finally shoreline.
Much nga, how much?
How much po ang kailangan? Ma'am, wala ko exact figure, pero may I just describe it in the form of factors? Kasi we use boats when we go offshore. So yung utility...
Do you have an idea, Iho?
Ma'am?
Have an idea
of how much
how much it will cost. So we will have an idea of if our money is enough, our budget is enough for that. Just an idea. It can estimate lang, just a rough idea of how much it will cost. Tingin ko yung kanilang yung economic will depend on how long you will have this spill kasi yung pag-support sa mga fishermen and the people will depend on how long this will take. So we must have an idea of how long this will take and how much it will cost. So we will have an idea of how long we will support the people affected by this.
Opo, ma'am. Ma'am, if I may continue, our companions is finding out a very close estimate to the amount. Yung...
Loisaga, how long do you think this will take? Control this.
Ma'am, it will really depend on, number one, how we can,
The worst.
in terms of ecosystem damage, ma'am, because we do not see what is not on the surface at this time. So we
No,
do,
but the spill, how long will we contain the spill? Yung ecosystem damage, years yan eh. Kasi ibabalik mo lahat
Yes,
yung
ma'am.
mga na-damage. But how much, how long will we support the people of the Mindoro Oriental and Antique and Palawan, those affected. So we will have an idea.
ma'am, the last estimates that we also reported to the President from UPMSI, and this was as late as Friday po, last Friday, the spillage is taking place at about 35,000 to 50,000 liters per day. Their calculation then was that it would take about 15 to 20 days to actually empty the vessel. If the assumptions are correct po, and until we see the actual vessel po, we cannot say na this is, but this is the estimated scenario po. So 15 to 20 days po to actually empty the vessel. How it will reach po the different municipalities depends po on the winds and the current. So we will have to rely on the model that they are actually running. And again, ma'am, that is only from the surface that we can see. Ang transport ho niyan for the heavy, we cannot see from the top. So kailangan po constant monitoring. The
Governor, take 1 month to control the spill. How do you think you will go back to normal? How long will we support you?
This is the problem, ma'am. While there is sa sea, yun ma'am, fish ay affected. Kaya ma'am, nag-request ma'am ako sa BIFAR of a regular testing ng toxicity level ng fish. Dahil ma'am, ngayong oras na to, ang dami ma'am isdang namamatay.
We have the BIFAR here eh. Where's the BIFAR?
Gawin mo, pero wala pa pong result.
Nandyan ba? Hindi ba nandyan ang BIFAR? Where's the BIFAR? O gaano katagal mo yung mga fishes will be affected kung 1 month magtatagal yung spill?
Good afternoon po. As far as the sampling is concerned po, nandun
Ito, tapos sasabihin mo, you have to consult. Diba ito? Ilang pages to? Oh, haba-haba.
since Feb 28 po yan, ma'am, na incident.
Pero I just want to have an idea na pag nag-oil spill ng 1 month, gaano katagal hindi magagamit yung, hindi makaka-fish yung mga fishermen sa dagat na yon.
Short, we're anticipating the damage and the effect on livelihood.
Yes.
BIFAR cannot answer that. Can any government agency answer that?
Pag hindi na-answer ng BIFAR tungkol sa fish, I don't think, Coast Guard, alam mo ba? O ikaw, alam mo ba?
5 months, pwede na pong mag-fish. Thank you.
So that was Guimaras, and it's been projected that this could be worse than Guimaras.
actually
In Guimaras, it was 2.1 million liters, no? And
It is
in terms
ito
of the
800,000.
location of the vessel,
Okay.
639 meters.
Deeper and bigger.
Deep.
So
Yeah.
this is like one half. Yeah, one half, 800,000. But we don't know the effects. We don't know. It could be less in liters, but the effects depending on the marine ecosystem affected, depende po yan.
Madam Chair, yes, indeed. So we're looking at biodiversity values and the relationship between biodiversity and the livelihoods of people as well as their health.
Mas konti yung taong apektado ron, ito nakatatlong probinsya na. Oo, di ba? Oh, so hindi sa litro lang ng oil kung hindi na rin sa dami ng populasyon sa affected areas at sa uri ng marine ecosystem sa mga lugar na yun.
Yes.
At sa livelihood ng mga tao, kung marami mga resort, turismo, yung mga trabaho doon, at kung kumpul-kumpul ang komunidad na alam kong ganun kumpul-kumpul ang madami. Yes.
For Lauren, we will just estimate the number of people to be supported, and then we will assume a length of time, and then we'll multiply yung sweldo nila every day for that length of time bago sila makabalik dun sa bago sila makabalik sa dagat. Di assume natin 6 months. O, sabi nila 20,000, di ba? Ilan ba? 20,000? Nakalagay doon 380 ba a day ang sweldo?
Madam
Minimum
Chair,
wage. Yes.
Tanong ko lang po, kasi as affected area sa Oriental Mindoro, kasi hindi ko po naririnig hanggang kailan po yung barko doon and ano yung plano po doon sa barko kasi iba yun na po ang nakikita ko po naririnig ko is yung paano tatanggalin yung oil. Ang tanong ko po ay hanggang kailan po yung barko doon sa lugar namin.
Kailangan tanggalin ng barko. Kahit
Yung oil po, hanggang kailan po?
yung oil,
Hanggang na po.
kaya nila 1 month eh.
Wow.
1 month daw eh. Yun ang estimate nila. Di ba sa
Ganun katagal.
21 days? O di 1
So 1 month everyday po kami maglilinis ng shoreline.
1 month.
Kasi kung 1 month po, everyday po kami maglilinis ng shoreline namin. Everyday.
Sa inyo na 21 days. Kung that's yeah. Should have an idea. So kung mapipigil nila yung oil for 1 month, then it will take, sabi nila, 6 months para magamit yung You just have to support the people for 6 months na salary nila, di ba?
Hindi na namin kaya yun.
Natin kung magkano ang IKES or tupad that we will give. How long? Di ba?
Madam
You
Chair.
have an estimate. Diba?
Senator Villar, Chairman, I will answer it since no one is answering it. Per the report, there are 137,000 more or less persons in Mimaropa and Western Visayas. I-times na natin minimum wage 400 per day.
Family. You don't give salary to all the family. You just give a salary to
Oh,
the
so let's make it 30,000 families. It's 30,000 families or 137,230 persons. So assuming let's make it per person. Let's just how you can't give 400. No, but we cannot.
Madam Chair, if I may.
But you should compute 30,000. I just want to see how much we need. Dapat sinasagot to ng ahensya ng gobyerno 30,000 families. 30,000 families times how much would you give per family?
400.
No, it cannot.
400.
Huh?
Round up na lang. 400.
Or 400 per family. That's 12 million per day. Times 30 days, that's 360 million. Times 6 months, that's 2.1 billion. Assuming it's 6 months because Guimaras was 5 months.
Sabi ni Endrim at saka ni sino yung isa na may pera, yung DSWD, may daw silang 1.2 billion na standby di ba? Oh.
As I said, there's 17 billion lodged in different agencies and there's 20 billion under National NDREAM and there's LGU, but small, QRF funds. So, approximately, but I don't think mabubuhay naman tao sa 400.
No,
a
they
day.
said
Hindi.
there's an alternative. They go to the other side. Baka may hanap buhay din doon sa other side. Kasi itong na-damage, itong Oriental, meron daw Occidental. So at least, you don't have to give everything to them, but at least a subsidy, then they can find, maghahanap tayo ng...
I'm not sure if my computation is correct. Is it 2.1
At least
billion
may
for 6
basic
months?
na pagka...
Yeah, but 300 a day, ay hindi makatao. 400 a day for a family, mga iba 10.
ang farmer nga
No.
12,000, 400 a day times 30 days is 12,000. Ang farmer nga ngayon ang kita lang 5,000 a month
Yeah.
Diba?
Okay.
Ganun
Okay.
lang.
So,
Diba? Kaya tayo nagpupumilit
Madam-
na pagandahin ng buhay ng farmer kasi gusto natin.
Tama po. Madam Chair.
Pero sila 5,000 lang ang kanila.
Actually po, mapapadali po sana ito kung mapapadali ang pagpasok ng ROV. Kaya po ako nakikiusap during the committee hearing na rin po na ma-ensure yung lahat ng cabinet offices at mga opisina ng gobyernong dadaanan. Nakasulat na po ako sa lahat ng dadaan ng opisina, Bureau of Quarantine, Coast Guard, EPA, Bureau of Customs, at saka po Immigration. I've already written them a letter yesterday. Nasubmit ko na po, may specific na pangalan ng barko. Kung yung 5 ahensya po na yon, ibibigay sa atin ngayon yung assurance na pagdating ng barko dyan, cleared na sila, diretso na po yung barko to Oriental Mindoro, mapapabilis po natin ang pag-solve ng problema. Yun lang po hinihingi muna namin. I-assure kami na yung pong permitting ng mga ito sa halip na pahirapan yung barko, padaliin. Nakakatulong na po ng malaki yun.
Who are you addressing your question to, Governor? Kasi-
Sabi ko sa pamamagitan po ng committing ito, mas mapadali
Sino
natin.
kaya ang sasagot sa kanila para ma-assure ka na mangyayari yung hinihiling
Yung
mo?
barko dumating. Sino ba in charge ng barko? Coast Guard.
Kasi sinabi mo yun, nakatingin lahat.
O,
Dapat may
ano ba,
oo
sino
at
ba in
gagawin,
charge
di
ng
ba?
barko?
Oh, sino?
Partly ma'am, Coast Guard.
Coast
Kanino?
Guard. Oh, di ayan, Coast Guard daw.
Coast Guard.
Quarantine.
Kayo na po ang sasagot.
At least those parts kasi we will collaborate with other agencies na concerned, ma'am.
Habang wala pa pong ina-appoint
Opo, kami
na
po,
overall
kami
in
na ang
charge,
titingin
kayo po.
Sige po,
Okay.
sir. 5 opisina po yon, Bureau of Quarantine.
Ano magko-coordinate?
Ang PPA po nandyan.
Yes, sir.
Coast Guard,
Yes.
Bureau of Immigration at Bureau of Customs.
Yes, sir.
Yun. Pangalawa,
Yes.
Madam Chair, hinihiling ko po sa lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno yung lahat ng tulong na nabigay na mula nung February 28 hanggang sa araw na to ng hearing. Hindi ako naniniwalang 20 million lang. So lahat ng nabigay na ng DSWD, lahat ng nabigay na ng DA, lahat ng nabigay na ng BIFAR sa ilalim ng DA, at kung wala pa, para makita natin.
Senator Lauren, kasi itong Coast Guard, di naman marunong hindi marunong mag-compute yan. Oh. Dapat ibigay natin doon sa marunong sa compute. Oh, palagay ko.
Ginagawa po nila ang kanilang kayang gawin. Pero
Sino ba magaling sa inyo lahat mag-compute? Kasi
that's why my motion, Madam Chair, is to request all agencies